So, hey everyone, welcome back to Cosplay Togs and All Things Nerdy. And once again, we are going to have a chat about Picvetia. Not that you haven't heard us talk about that before, but this time we're going to chat about it in a little bit of a different way. So now the event's finished, everyone's home. We're going to talk about what it's like to attend the event from a UK photographer's perspective. And we've got a couple of other UK photographers here with us on this episode to chat about this, as well as someone who assisted. So without further ado, let's get everyone introduced. And James, we'll start with yourself.
Hello. So I'm James. I've been doing photography 4 years, I think, give or take. SecretCon 23 was my first one. So Picvetia was luckily my second European event after attending Focus at the end of last year. So that's me, really.
Awesome. And Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Fleck. I've been doing photography probably off and on for maybe 50 odd years. Been doing cosplay photography since 2017. I've been giving up cosplay photography since 2019. That's sort of a running joke. I keep meaning to give up because of, never feeling like you're getting anywhere, and yet I still keep coming back to it. COVID nearly beat me, but I'm still here. So, this is something different for me. I never thought I would actually get to do this. So obviously, thank you also. Thank you very much for inviting me to the show. God, I'm flubbing my life.
You're welcome. So we're going to chat a little bit about the event, why we applied, what our general thoughts are, what it's like to attend as a photographer, what it's like organising. If Tom can work his magic, we will also work into this episode a brief interview we did with the organisers whilst we were at the event. If not, we'll put that out later in some reels. Depends how clever Tom's feeling this weekend while he's editing, really. So, but we're also going to chat. We're also going to chat with Tom as well about his time at Picvetia, as he came out with me to assist, because I think it's important that people get to hear from the assistant side and also get to sort of hear about the importance of an assistant's role, because I think everyone here will agree that I certainly couldn't do it without an assistant. Not only take out the aspect of the driving, but I could not do it without an assistant. I know some people do, but I think it would probably finish me off if I did.
I don't think I could. No way.
No, definitely.
Not these days, certainly.
So, first of all, guys, what made you apply for this particular event this time round?
Michael, go ahead.
Okay, right, straight into the hot seat then.
You on the spot?
I caught you out.
Straight on the spot. Okay. I've known about cosplay for like years and years, long before I became a cosplay photographer. I used to think it was something that they only did in America and Japan. And then it was like 2017 when I sort of discovered we do this here as well. So, back then I went with my son at the time to his first con with a camera, broke all the rules, but had a really great time. And then just kept taking pictures of cosplayers and stuff like that. And it was like 2 or so years ago, I think Darren had showed some pictures of an event called Il Volta. And for those who have seen it, if you remember what those pictures were like when you first saw them, the probably reaction was like me, which you were more like, what? Compared to the sort of shoots that we were doing in the UK, in convention halls and stuff like that. We were seeing stuff in amazing locations that look like really high quality studio shoots, unbelievable quality cosplays, amazing photography and lighting. And it just made me think, my God, they really are something special over in Europe. Why don't we have anything like this here? So I've sort of been going on, learning how to improve my photography, going to things like workshops, and then SecretCon came about in the wake of Cos Expo, RIP. I actually only went to one. I think we actually met Darren there at the time. We crossed paths a few times. And that was an eye-opener for me to be able to shoot in a really nice location. It was tough going. I won't lie, it wasn't the easiest of things to shoot. but it just kept me going. And then SecretCon, it just built on that because it offers something that you don't get at UK conventions. UK conventions aren't built for quality photography. They're more to get the masses, pile them in, get them ticket sales, and squish them out within 2 hours to get another load in. And if you've seen MCM, it's like very much like that. It's almost a continual conveyor belt of people in and out. And, whole shots and stuff look great, but you think, oh, these cosplays are fantastic, but they would look so much better if they were in a really good location. And this just isn't it. It doesn't bring out the best. So I got to a point last year where I thought, I'm going to have a go and apply at one. And I think, again, I was in one of my many low periods. And I thought, if I don't get it, I'm going to quit. I'm done. I've had it. I'm walking away from it. So I had a look at what the entry requirements were. Thought, I'll give it a shot. Picked out some of what I thought were my best, strongest images and applied. And I wanted to see, firstly, yes, could I get into this? But also know that if I did, I was definitely going, because I know that's an important thing. There are people who will just apply to see, can they get in? But then they don't make the effort to go. And it's like, well, why would you do that? You have an opportunity to go and step up your game, bring your A game with you. Take it. You might never get the opportunity again. So yeah, that's why I applied.
Nice. And were you surprised when you were accepted?
I'm going to confess to something. Well, I have actually confessed to this in my highlights, because on the day, somehow in my head last year, when the announcement came out, was it last year? Yeah. When the announcement came out, I had the idea it was going to be on a Friday. So it was Thursday morning, about 8:30. I'm in the works car park. There's a big all staff event going on. So it's like all hands on deck. And I'm just like sitting in my car, chilling out before I go in. And I'm looking down at my phone and I see Discord messages flashing up. And I see something like, anyone got Picvetia except emails yet? I picked up my phone several times, looked at it, like, put it down. I don't want to look. I don't want to start the day on a downer, because it's just going to go downhill from there. And I looked, and when I saw it, I did a double take. I couldn't believe it. I thought, right, I'm going to record a video there and then of my reaction. 4 takes later, and after deleting the first 3 takes, I gave up because it got so emotional. I mean, you would have seen a grown man cry, literally. My voice was cracking. It was getting quite a bit. And I was going to say, there's probably many things that can make a grown man cry, having your flash fall out of its bracket and dropping on the floor, in like revenue tax returns, probably many other things. And no, Declan, don't start sending any tech questions in about those.
Also, maybe dropping lenses in rivers. That's happened recently for someone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, all of those sort of things. So, like I say, when that happened, I just thought, no, I'm not going to post it. I'm just going to post up a simple, message to say, I can't believe it. Thank you for accepting me. That was amazing. But I spent the whole day in a daze just going around work. I wasn't even there.
I was very similar. The first time I applied to Volta and got accepted, I think we were just getting ready to, when the Volta results came in, I think we were just getting ready to go shopping on the weekend, a week before or 2 weeks before we were due to fly out to Spain for Christmas. It was sometime in December. And it was the first photocon I'd applied for, and I didn't think I was going to get in. And yeah, I was very much the same. It was a really emotional time. I was just so surprised, but also so elated. And then obviously I did Picvetia last year, Focus last year, and very, very similar reaction when I got accepted for them. So I thought this time around, when I applied for Picvetia, that it would just be like, oh, if I get in, if I don't get in. And then if I do get in, it'd be like, oh yeah, cool. But it was a similar sort of emotions again, even though it was like my second time being accepted for the event. Yeah, it's an interesting one, that.
So with that said, Darren, I'm kind of jumping in a little bit here and saying, even though you're the one here out of everyone here who's been to multiple of them and Picvetia twice, for example, has that sort of shock and awe and not novelty, but shock and awe of being accepted wear off over time? Was it still sort of the same way it was when you first got that Volta one?
Yeah, it's still very, very similar. I thought it would have started to wear off by now because I think Picvetia this year is like 1, 2, 3, my 4th photocon, but it was still very, very much a similar sort of emotion. And I think it's because I've seen so many cosplayers and photographers who've been to these events before still sometimes get knocked back when they apply again. So even though you've been before, it's still very much like not a given that you're going to get accepted next time round or the time after that and the time after that. And I think because of me and where I am with my journey in photography at the minute, these events generally mean so much to me with my creativity and my headspace that it is still very much a passion for me, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, for me, the novelty just isn't wearing off, and the emotion of being accepted isn't wearing off either.
I think with the emotion comments, brilliant. I think on that point we jump to James and get his.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I again very similar. You see photographers you look up to, like Darren, for example, posting photos from Volta. I think it was the first Volta you posted. I was like, this location's like this. I mean, obviously we have the great locations you and your colleagues find for SecretCon, but they're not waterfalls or
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like there's mountains in the background, endless vistas. Yeah. So you see those, and I'm like, I could have a go. For my first one was focus, so I applied thinking there's no chance. I don't think very highly of myself anyway. I was like, I'll give it a go, and then when I got that, the emotion was unbelievable, and I was on a real high after that. So I was like, I'll try Picvetia as well. Why not? There's no chance. Fluke the first time. I'm sure it was an accident. They let me in, but we'll give it a go. And then find out I get that one. And the emotion doesn't wear out. You don't assume, or it just honestly hits you like, why me? Why was I selected? And it's
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling.
Yeah. So was there anything in particular, James, that made you want to apply for Picvetia, or was it just it was another event on the calendar that you really liked the look of, and after the high of focus, like you say, you just thought, well, why not? Let's give it a go.
Yeah. I mean, the locations straight away, and obviously I know they cycle through, but finding out that there was an opportunity for, like, there was the stone quarry, which jumps to mind straight away, which is just like sea of rocks, but like weird shapes and geometry that you just won't find here, and waterfalls, mountains, castles, abandoned castles. I mean, everything here is gated off or owned by someone, so it's impossible to get into locations like that. So just seeing the opportunity to shoot photos or characters that I love in a location like that is just, it's worth a go, right? That's what I tell myself. Yeah, absolutely.
So once, obviously, the initial novelty wore off about being accepted, Picvetia, as we spoke about before, they have a system where they ask people to delay booking shoots by, I think, a week or 2 weeks to give people a chance. How did you feel going into the shoot booking element? How did you find that? Did you find it easy, stressful? Did you get the number of shoots that you wanted? What were your thoughts on that one, James?
Oh, it's the most stressful moment. I can't, as much as I would recommend these events to anybody, everybody, anyone, the booking thing is stressful. It is stressful.
I don't call it the Hunger Games for nothing.
Exactly. So you're sat there with like an empty card, for example. You got like I book out 8 till 8, and there's big empty gaps, and you're thinking, you're waiting for the time to start. You've got your list of people you'd love to work with, and then the moment starts, and you send out the messages, and then you wait, because everyone has the same process. Everyone's got a list of people they'd like to work with, or people that match their styles, and then you've got to time it up, and it is so stressful, but it's so rewarding when you start seeing the names appear on your list that you want to work with, and people you've maybe followed for years.
Instagram doesn't help the process either sometimes, especially with the ruling. If it's someone that doesn't follow you or that you've not communicated with before, you get stuck in the DMs on you've got to have your first message approved, and then it can really
a funny story about that is I had someone reach out to me for Volta. They opened up, obviously they saw my portfolio on Volta's website. They went to reach out to me, and immediately they were like, this is a really bad way to start this, but I'm sorry I missed your message from Focus last year, but I would really like to work with you. And we ended up working together. It was great.
Nice.
I obviously wanted to work with them back in September last year. They wanted to work
Yeah.
with me. Volt had just gone, so it worked out. And unfortunately, Instagram is like
Amazing.
that. If you don't follow
Yeah.
each other, you do kind of sometimes get caught in that sort of limbo
Absolutely.
between.
Yeah. I mean, the last few photocons I've done, I just kind of like didn't go straight out the blocks, and I just was just chilling, and then over a period of weeks afterwards, send a few messages and this. But this time was the first time I decided I'd planned out a set of people and certain cosplays that I wanted to shoot with, and I'd listed them all down, what they were doing, what days they were doing it, whether I wanted to shoot with them, and kind of compiled this list, and literally sat at my computer that day waiting for the booking to open. And that's the first time I've done that. And it was definitely the most stressful way I've done it, without a doubt. And messages were coming in like thick and fast. And I was sending messages out to people that I'd already put on my list that I'd like to work with. And then I was like you're waiting for messages back. But then I'm getting messages from other people who I hadn't necessarily got on my list. But actually, when I start talking to them and looking at the cosplayers, I'm actually thinking, well, actually, yeah, it would be quite. But then I'm still waiting for messages to come back from other people. And it is incredibly stressful. But for me, once I got some of the key slots filled and I kind of stepped back and relaxed a bit, it was far, far more chilled. Because I don't care if I've got like a couple of hour gap here and there. As long as I've got 3 shoots a day,
Your
I'm
driver,
happy because I
your
know
driver had an expression at that, which I thought was quite.
I sometimes do then end up overbooking myself and ending up with 6 shoots in a day.
That's the thing. While you're there, it's sometimes a case of when in Rome comes to mind. Like if you can fit it in and it works to your schedule and you're not killing yourself to do it,
Yeah,
it's the best time to do it.
Like the way I've done a couple of events now is go really hard on the first day, and then the Saturday sort of rein it back a little bit. The Sunday rein it back even further, so you're kind of winding it down through the weekend, and that's kind of like worked. I think this time I only ended up with a couple of shoots on the Sunday. I think one cancelled.
Yeah, we had one cancelled. It was maybe 3.
Yeah, and it was meant to be 3, and then one accidentally went to the wrong location, which ended up being an hour away from where we were.
Whoops.
Total just one of them things, it happens.
That's what happens when you have like 15 waterfalls in the local area.
Yeah. I mean,
very true.
Picvetia, for example, was so many waterfalls that have very similar names, and some were an hour or hour and a half apart from each other at some points.
Yeah. So I was supposed to have 2 in the afternoon, nothing in the morning. Then I picked up an extra one for the morning on the Sunday. But then obviously one had to drop out in the afternoon. So we were just like, oh, let's just go up to the location. We were there anyway. Let's just walk up to the location. Like my next shoot after had just arrived in the car park. So we all walked up. They did their other shoot. We just chilled out with the drone. Sat in this beautiful location looking at the scenery. So we were just like, yeah, whatever. As long as I come away from a weekend feeling that I've done enough shoots to make the trip worthwhile. And that's normally an average of a 3-day event. If I can do between 8 and 10 shoots in that weekend, bearing in mind they're normally like 2-hour shoots on average, then it's worthwhile for me. But what about you, Michael? How did you approach the booking aspect?
I think on booking day, I mean, I had a list of people I wanted to work with. I had kind of preempted some conversations in the Discord before booking day, just to sort of register a bit of interest, and then fire off a load of messages and sat there all day and nothing came back. It was very much like leaves swirling around going, oh, okay, this isn't good. And I even got like replies 2 weeks later from people saying, oh, I'm sorry, I've just seen your message. I'm fully booked. Well, thanks. Thanks for letting me know, but it doesn't help a lot. So it is stressful. It is unbelievably stressful when you look at the numbers, sometimes the breakdown where you saw, I think with Picvetia, it was supposed to be like 3 cosplayers per photographer, you would think. You would think if you were aiming to do 12 shoots over the weekend, you would fill all 3 slots easily. It didn't feel like that at all. It felt like I was scratching around for shoots, and I didn't get anything for the Friday morning at all. But there was one shoot that I was particularly interested in, and I ended up getting into an Instagram group chat with these lovely ladies behind me, because they were newcomers to Picvetia, and they were doing a Monster Hunter group shoot. And I normally don't do group shoots, but seeing Monster Hunter cosplays and playing it, it's like, hell yeah, I want to shoot this. This is the stuff I don't get to see in the UK. And with that kind of background,
I mean, that
was the main driver for my attending. Will be like, I need to have this shoot, and then if I can get a few more on top of that, it will be a bonus. But as I found, it's incredibly difficult. You spend more of your time maybe not getting rejected and knockbacks from people, and you think, am I going to get enough to make this trip worthwhile? And constantly my brain is going on thinking, I'm feeling really uncomfortable about it. I feel like pulling out straight away. We saw people leaving, and I had to constantly keep fighting that urge to withdraw from the event, because I just thought this isn't going to go anywhere. But I stuck at it, and I got to a point where I was up more than halfway, but I think maybe 6, 7 shoots, which by Darren's logic is probably not that bad. Because what I try to do with most events is I sort of think about what I would want to get, and then think, if I get 50% of that, that's good enough. So I ended up with a bit of dead time on the Friday, but just getting to the location was challenging enough, because driving is holy shit around there.
That's what I found with Picvetia. I'm kind of glad I had a gap or two, because getting some of the locations on Google Maps, like, hey, this is 30 minutes. And then you drive it, you're like, this is an hour.
It feels like 60.
Because you can't.
It feels like 60, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only advantage I can say on the driving from the Switzerland thing that I noticed was hardly any potholes, which was freaking nice.
Yeah, the roads were good, but there
was a nice smooth road. Yeah, there was some thin ones.
But also very narrow. And if you took
the route
a wrong
up to the
turning,
stone quarry was scary. Trying to do that at night was terrifying.
Oh my God, that was.
Yeah, well, we did that at night as well on the Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did it Saturday.
I know what you're saying there, Michael. It can be a little bit daunting. I mean, I had sort of similar experiences on my first time at Volta, because people had said to me, "Oh, don't worry about trying to book straight away. Take some time." And I did, and then I was just getting all these messages back going, "Oh, sorry, I'd love to work with you, but I'm fully booked. And it's like, shit.
Yeah, I mean, it does make me wonder sometimes whether people are breaking the rules effectively. It's more the case of they already know people in Europe, European cosplays already know who they work with regularly.
Yeah.
And will probably just say, hey, I've been accepted for this. And the photographer says, oh, yes, so have I. Do you want to shoot?
There is an element.
And they get sewn up for the whole weekend.
Yeah. I think there is an element, certainly, of, especially people that have been to European photo conventions before, that have worked with each other before. There is an element of having a preference of maybe wanting to work with those people. And while they might not book, they sort of register their interest, if you like. So as soon as booking opens, they're like straight on that. Yeah, let's book. But I think as well, I have also noticed that not everybody jumps on it straight away. There are a lot of people that don't even upload their cos plans until 2, 3, 4 weeks later, because they might be on holiday. They might not have decided what they want to do yet. And so the key is to remember that there is enough cosplayers to go around, because once those initial ones are all booked up, they're booked up. They can't fit any more in. And so there is still this pool that either still haven't booked yet, or they haven't even decided what they're doing yet. And when the event's months down the line, there is still plenty of time to arrange shoots and plan. So whilst it's very easy to get disheartened and think, shit, this is all falling apart, you have got to remember that these events do have a ratio for their applications. They've done it for a number of years and they know what ratio works. So, don't panic. There are always going to be people available to shoot. And I used to, at these type of events, just get myself booked up solid on all 3 days. But now I'm of the opinion, and it started at Focus, where like, yeah, let's just leave some free time to just go and chill and explore places and have a look around. And we had a gap on the Friday, I think, was it, Tom? Of like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Did, yes. Yeah, 4 hours.
And it got to the point where I deliberately didn't fill that gap, even though I had people message me that, do you want to shoot? And I was like, I'm actually, unless something that really is my thing, because I was booked up fully on the Friday. And then unfortunately 2 people that were back-to-back shoots dropped out. So I decided not to fill that gap. And I was like, you know what, let's go exploring. And I found this location that was one of the shoot locations. And I said to Tom, I'd really like to go and check this out. What do you think? And he was like, hell yeah, let's go. So we sort of went. It was the Roman Bridge, bit of a trek.
Yes.
Absolutely stunning location.
Yeah.
I would like to shoot there at some point, but it would be a nightmare getting your gear down. It was just stunning, and it was just a really great few hours to unwind, chill out at an absolutely stunning location. And again, it's one of them sort of things when in Rome, you're out there, there's this stunning location that's really caught your eye. You've got the time, why not just go and see it? So, I'd say to anyone, even if you've got some big gaps, use the time to go and do something else. You're away in an absolutely beautiful country. Just use the time to go and explore. Or sometimes you may even pick up a last minute cancellation. I know for Focus last year, I picked up 2 last minute cancellations on the Friday night for the Sunday morning. And it happens. So I would say really just try not to get too disheartened if things don't fill up straight away. Because I saw this with the recent Focus. Like within a few days, there was cosplayers panicking on the Discord group that they weren't booked up yet. And the organizer was trying to remind them, look, we're only a few days in. There's
You've got like 5
until the event.
You've got 5 months.
And a lot of change
panic. Don't panic. Exactly. So overall, how did you both find the organization for the event? Obviously, it was your first time attending Picvetia. How did you find it easy organizing your travel, your accommodation, your car hire? Obviously, we talked about the shoot plans, but what, for me, I always use booking.com for accommodation. So I'd booked somewhere on booking.com before I was even accepted, just on the off chance that I might get accepted.
I even did it. I had no expectation I was getting in, but I still pre-booked stuff because one, price is going to go flying up after that people are confirmed.
Yeah, and 2, it's not a massive area.
No,
so, with so many people, 60 odd cosplayers, 60 odd photographers, plus assistants, probably knocking on for 250 people. There's a lot of people to find accommodation. But did you stay at the HQ, James?
And this is not this isn't against Picvetia, because I feel like they kind of got surprised with it as well. So yeah, we were booked in the Bamboo House. Like a couple of days before, there was an email saying, "Hey guys, some of you are no longer there because they've overbooked. There's now some regular people there, or the army. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it got some army cadets there or something.
Yeah. So we weren't moved. Our room wasn't moved, but it was asterisked with something new. Now we knew it was shared access, which I was like, for the price, pretty good in Switzerland. It was €400 for the whatever nights. But it also said shared access / shared bathroom. Now I'm like, I don't know about this. So it turns out I emailed the Bamboo House and asked them what the deal was, and they said, no, your entrance to your room is inside someone else's room. So the bathroom is in their room. So to get to my bed, I would have to go through someone else's bedroom. Don't know if that's really a good idea. I did see the list of who it was because the names were public, and I was thinking I could reach out to it. It was a fellow photographer, but even still, it's a bit like, hey, we've got to go through your bedroom. So if I want to get outside or get outside the building or to use the toilet, I have to go through your bedroom.
Yeah.
So once they realized, I messaged Picvetia and the Bamboo House, and they were like, we're going to move you to the other location, which was a couple of hundred meters down the road. Turns out that was okay, but I did pre-book a Airbnb in case. Lost some money on the deposit for that, but it was a bit of a like, hey, I can't end up sharing a bedroom and a bathroom with someone else.
No.
That's not quite right.
To get access through someone else's bedroom. Yeah, I know. I was speaking to, I think it was Romy and the team about that, and they weren't aware of some of those kind of issues either. It kind of got sprung on them last minute, which is a bit unfair because it kind of gives kind of like makes them look bad, even though it's not their fault.
That's completely out of their hands.
Kind of felt 100%. For them a bit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Felt for them a bit. So where did you stay, Michael?
Oh, I stayed in an apartment block. I originally booked it through booking.com. In fact, what I did previously, I booked another place and then completely forgot about the idea of it had no parking space. And I was like, where am I going to park a car? I hadn't thought of that, typical one of those things last minute. And I thought, shit, I've got this place. It looks really nice, but there's no parking spaces nearby and I have no idea where I would park. So a frantic search around to another apartment, and I found this apartment block parking, and it mentioned underground parking. I thought, oh, that won't be so bad. So I booked it, and it is a really nice place. It is kind of like a shared apartment. I think there are some permanent residents who live there. So I think some of these are probably like retirement flats people are hiring out. And I guess, and this was in sort of very close center of Minusio. So it's across the road from a really nice pizza place, which is an Italian restaurant. Amazing. So yeah, we were there most nights. But the parking was not ideal, shall we say. When you're driving a Polestar 2, as you know, Tom, it's a big-ass car. And those underground parking spots, when you have a pillar at one side, I managed to get the car, somehow jackknifed it in between the pole and one of the other residents' cars. And when I tried to back it out, I literally got the stop. And we were like that far away from hitting the car.
Them Polestar 2s are pretty big. I mean, me and Declan had a Polestar 2 last year at Picvetia, and they are. Yeah. And you also seem to sit very low down into them as well, so visibility isn't as good as you think.
Yeah. So, that was a nightmare. Parking a car should normally take you only a couple of minutes to do at best in something like that. This ordeal took us probably over an hour because there was a lady who was driving behind us and she noticed that we had some problems, came over and she could speak some English, said she didn't know who the car next to us belonged to, but she knows someone who might do. So it's like she went off, came back with someone else. He knew who it was. So you've got like three people gesticulating to you in an Italian how to drive. My son's there having a nervous breakdown, trying to direct me. And I was going, I hope to God this thing goes right because I don't want to scratch the car. And of course, I didn't realize that on the way that I had actually scratched the car on the passenger side. But good. It was a good tip that James mentioned about the excess insurance because I've taken that out. Yeah, I haven't heard anything back from them yet or seen any money back, but I've claimed.
My Volta car went real bad. So I booked via Car Rent Italia. And I got there and they're like, we don't like the look of your credit card, so we're not going to take the deposit. And I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Literally, they barely spoke any English. So I ended up having to basically pay the rental fee for the car again. And now I have to try and claim that back through excess, which is not going to happen. So, so they were like, yeah, we can't give you the car. And I'm just like, cool. So I'm stuck in Verona without a car.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hopefully, again, terrifying. Excess is good, so I'm hoping I can sort it out. But they gave me they said, take this car, it's beaten up, we don't care if you crash it. And it was the trashiest little Peugeot I've ever seen. It was horrendous. They said, we're not going to bother coming out and doing the tick around because it is trashed. And it was absolutely trashed, and they gave it to us. So They didn't even come check. When we handed it
Wow.
back,
Yeah.
they weren't bothered. They weren't bothered. I could have written it off.
I think
and they wouldn't have known.
when I did Volta, we went through a company called Centuro for the car hire. They're a little bit more expensive than some of the other hire companies, but they don't take a deposit. It's zero excess. Yeah, like literally, I think we paid probably like when all the other car places were like 170, 180. I think we paid like 260, 280 for the car hire. So you're paying more, but it was zero excess, no deposit, no credit card needed, just a debit card to book and pay in advance. And they were absolutely brilliant. The only rule they have is bring it back with 75% fuel. That's it.
That's a handy tip to know, because other places, when I was looking at, it was like a security deposit was like 750 francs, excess of
Some of them are really
3,300. Which is
I
like,
had to give a £2,000
Christ.
deposit for my car rental for Picvetia.
Yeah.
So I was like, credit card.
Mm.
Please don't try and actually take it, because that's not gonna. You're not gonna be able to have that.
Yeah, they just do a pre-authorization, don't they?
Mm.
But yeah, I know we stayed in. We got an apartment in Minusio, and I knew there was no parking. Actually, there was no like garage or drive, but I knew there was parking like in the street nearby. And it was a lovely 2-bedroom apartment, really spacious, really nice place. And the host, I tell you what, I've never had such a fantastic host. I mean, I've been lucky with all my apartments for the photocons I've been to. They've all been fantastic. But we had an issue with the hot water on the Saturday. We got back on the Saturday evening. Tom had a shower and said, "Oh, the water isn't very hot." So I went to jump in the shower and the water was practically stone cold. I messaged the host and they said, "Oh, bear with me, I'll check it out." So there was other apartments in the block, and it turns out that there's like a central boiler room down in the basement. And I think the host must also live in the apartment block. Like 5 minutes later, they're like, "Yeah, there's a problem with the boiler room. We'll get someone out to it. We'll message you shortly." I was like, "Well, we're going to head out for dinner anyway. So yeah, just keep me posted." And they were like, "Oh, I'll have an update for you. There'll be someone out by the time you're at dinner." And we were like, "What? Nah." So we went out for dinner in Minusio. We'd literally only just parked up, and I got a message saying, "The heating engineer's on his way. He'll be here within the hour." I'm like, "Fucking hell! That'd take 3 weeks in the UK."
And the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
By the time we ate dinner at the pizza restaurant, which was eventful, I'll come on to that in a minute.
Put it this way: if you know Deck, he would have had the best time of his fucking life.
Yeah, we couldn't quite tell which one of us the male waiter was trying to crack onto the most.
I think it was trying to get both of us.
I think probably both, yes. But it was an amazing restaurant. The pizza was fantastic. And for Switzerland, I don't think the prices were too bad either. But anyway, by the time we got back to the apartment, literally just cracked open a bottle of wine, sat down to watch a bit of SWAT, as we do. So I kind of go-to Netflix show when we're away. I got a message saying the heating engineers found the problem. It requires a part that he can't get till Monday, but he's just gone off now to get some temporary bits so he can come back and get the heating and the hot water up and running tonight for you. Literally by like 11:30 at night, the hot water was back on.
That's incredible.
Sunday, we got back from shooting on the Sunday. We were sat down having some food, and I got a message from the host again to say, because obviously for anyone that's been to Europe before and stayed in Airbnbs or whatever, a lot of places have the tourist tax, which you normally have to leave for them either in cash or pay on a system. He just said, "Look, don't worry about paying the tourist tax for yourself, and the other guest will cover the cost for you as a gesture of goodwill." Then we went to load the car on the Monday morning, opened the front door of the apartment, and Tom was like, "What's this?" And there was a bottle of Prosecco on the doorstep, which he'd left us again as a gesture of goodwill to say, sorry for the hassle. And, it's like these things happen. Like it was sorted quickly. The communication was brilliant. I really didn't mind whether we got anything or not, but the host was fantastic. And then I left him a great review. Since chatted again because I've said that I want to go back to that region of Switzerland at some point, and the host has said, "Let us know whenever you want to come back. Message me direct if the apartment's available. We're more than happy to let you book direct. We'd be more than happy to have you stay again." And it was just a really, really nice experience. But
I mean, yeah.
where did you guys fly into? Did you both fly into Zurich?
Yeah, I flew into Zurich.
Yeah. How were your flights? Did you have any issues with the new EES system?
Getting out, I knew we were pretty close to missing our flight on the way out. The way in wasn't too bad because it was just before the system went live, I think. But the way back in, it was
apparently the system had gone live because I had to register my fingerprints and everything.
Oh, we had to do it, but it was still optional at that point, I think.
All right.
But it went live on the Monday, fully, like, officially live. And getting out, we got to the flight and they closed the door like a couple of minutes later. It was pretty close.
Wow.
Yeah, loads of people. The last thing we heard was they're not going to make it. We'll take their bags off. So a few people didn't make that flight because it was so bad. There was a lot of questions. I mean, I had to explain. I made the mistake of trying to explain what cosplay photography was on the way in. That was on the way in, luckily. And that was tricky because they thought I was there for work. Obviously, trying to explain there's no money in this was quite tricky. Yeah. For Volta, I had it open on my phone in case they asked. Like, this is why I'm here. Read this.
Yeah.
They didn't for that one. It was just straight through. Now I'm on the system. It seems like it was in and out of Italy was minutes. Minutes.
We got through like really, really quickly at Switzerland and on the way back. Really, some delays on the way driving back to Zurich because the main road was closed. So we had to book
you saved us,
which
for
meant
that.
we had to charge again. But
oh God, that was terrifying.
It was a nice trip.
Yeah, I mean, the EES system for us, we got waved through, I think, at Manchester because it just didn't work. It wouldn't register all of my fingerprints. You know, I haven't filed off any of my fingerprints. It just literally stubbornly refused. I'm like pressing my hand down on the reader, and it's like, nope. So then they just look like, just go through to an immigration.
Was that on your way out or your way back?
That I think on the way out, and I think on the way back, it didn't bother. I just went through the normal customs.
We didn't have to do any of that at
Gatwick. No, we just put our passports in and away it went.
I mean, that was it pretty much. We just did the same, I think, on the way back, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, our flight was delayed by about an hour on the way back, but
we were. I was waiting bordering for about on missing 15 my train. Minutes. Yeah, we were like waiting at Zurich for like 15 minutes on a bus that drives you out to the plane, and it's like, what on the for? We don't know why. And then I finally get a text saying that there's been delays because other flights were coming in late. Members of their crew were at different parts of the airport and couldn't get there in time. So it's like,
I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was going on that Monday, but there was a
pilot strike. Apparently, the German pilots were on flight.
Right, we counted on the board on the departures, and there was over 58 flights delayed just in like a 3-hour period.
If that was the Monday, that was the day that EES became not optional. So it could be that.
Right.
And don't forget, you had the issues with I'm going to butcher the Strait of Mars as well, and all the flights being directed around, because that was massive at the time when we were going through there.
Yeah. So, going into this event, what were your general expectations? Did you expect it to go smoothly? Did you?
Yep. Panic,
terror,
near-death experiences. We had many. With my,
on the road.
I think that's one thing I will say that does get easier the more of these events you do, because you do kind of learn to know what to expect. So once everything's arranged and planned, you kind of learn to just relax and chill and panic a lot less.
I did panic a lot less for Volta than I did for Picvetia, which I do think is a lot of help for 2 people in here at least messaging me pretty much multiple times a day just saying, are you still hanging on?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I do think there is some truth to that. Panic will always be there for me, but I feel like once you, like say, you get a couple under your belt, the panic becomes a little less.
Yeah.
In your face.
So how did you both find the general sort of vibe of the event? Did you
Oh, I love
find it easy to chat to people? Did you find it easy to network? Did you find many issues with language barriers?
Michael, go ahead.
I said I did pretty well. Okay. I mean, in terms of general networking, I mean, it was mostly chatting with the people that I was already shooting with, because I sometimes think I wish I had stayed at the Bamboo House, just because it would have been nice to sort of have more of the social side of meeting people together.
Yeah.
But then, because it's one of those events, it's unlike SecretCon where everybody's turned up. This is one of those events where you feel like you only see a handful of people, and it's only until the group photo that you see how many people are
You
actually
realise
here. And you're like,
how many people?
where the heck did all these people come from?
Yeah.
How did they miss all of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we made a conscious effort to call into HQ at least once a day for a little while to try and chat with people. Obviously, it was a bit easier for us in a sense because we'd already had the Picvetia organisers on the podcast a couple of times. So when we first turned up on the Thursday night to collect passes, it was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And we had a nice chat and a selfie, and it was kind of like some nice interactions there. But I do generally find that, and this is not just at Picvetia, this is all the European photocons I've been to, that at sort of like the main HQ, for people that haven't shot together, there is still very much that sort of awkwardness. And it's not a nasty awkwardness. It's just, it's almost like you remember like your high school discos when you got girls at one side and boys over the other and no one dare talk to each other until you get some alcohol involved.
Yeah.
And then everyone speaks to everybody. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a willingness for people to network, but there is still, I think, an awkwardness that it's just breaking that ice. Once you broke the ice with somebody, you can chat forever. I found a lot of the cosplayers that we shot with over the weekend. We were then, bumping into them at HQ and having a great chat. And once you've got through that initial awkwardness and icebreaker, it sort of flows really, really well. What about yourself, James? Obviously, you were staying sort of around the HQ area. Did you spend much time sort of networking at HQ outside of your shooting, or?
It's harder because I wasn't actually at the HQ this time. So the reason I booked the Bamboo House was to be right in it.
To do that.
So for focus, we stayed quite close, but not a couple of minutes walk away. And obviously for this one, I was like, no, I'm going to go straight into the center and I'm going to be brave and I'm going to say hello to people and just get to meet people. But unfortunately, we were a little bit too far out. It was more than a walk, but not really close enough that you could get to. Yeah. And then I ended up overworking myself and I didn't really have time to go there anyway.
Yeah.
So finding that time to go there, I think, is really important. And
definitely. I think I would have liked to have spent more time at HQ, but I like the first day we were shooting really, really late, and then it really does really take it out of you. By the time you finish shooting at the end of the day, you just want to go back to the apartment and chill. But there we go. Obviously with Picvetia, they kind of move around their regions. Last year was in the French region, and I went to that one. This year they were in Ticino, which is the Italian region. What did you both think of the region and the area itself? I mean, the only 2 times I've been to Switzerland are for Picvetia events. I've never been to Switzerland outside of that. I don't know whether you guys have before, but what did you think of the overall region?
I would say it was absolutely incredible. It's really so strange that you don't sort of realize that Switzerland is kind of almost like 3 separate countries that merge a little bit and blend, because you land in Zurich and you see lots of German names. I'm used to, I can speak a bit of German. I've been learning it for over 2 years now. It's not great, but people compliment me on being able to at least speak it to some degree. And then as we're driving down sort of towards Ticino, I'm noticing that the road names are changing. The sat-nav's giving me Italian names, and I'm like, okay. Suddenly all this, a couple of years of learning German has just gone out of the window, because now I have to do a crash course in Italian when I want to order a coffee.
I think it was the tunnel. I think once you're in that tunnel for what felt like 1,000 hours, once you come out, everything's Italian. Everything was Italian after that tunnel.
That tunnel was something else.
You got the views, and you're like, I spend the whole time like driving. I'm like, and then the cars beep, 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 back on the road.
Yeah,
that views.
the views on the drive down to Ticino were just absolutely just breathtaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember saying to Tom, like, it's not often I'm lost for words, but there were a few moments where I was literally lost for words. I was just like, fuck, that's just stunning.
I mean, if I wasn't driving, I would have looked around a lot more. But then you're driving on this road, you're just like, I'm on the wrong side of the car.
Exactly.
I'm on the wrong side of the road. I'm like,
terrified.
Okay,
like,
I'm in a car that I've never driven before, so you're getting used to it. But then you're like, what you are seeing, you're like, actually, this is really pretty. And I'm like, then there's Darren going, oh, look at this, look at that. They're fucking everywhere. Just
that was one of my regrets is I didn't put the action cam on the front and record it going down because the scenery was just so stunning. The tunnels were like one tunnel, another tunnel, and a slightly longer tunnel, and then there's this last tunnel which goes on forever. And you think when you come out at the other end, it's going to be nighttime.
Yeah, it felt like
and some of them as well were like some of the tunnels as well that had got like slatted pillars like on one side. It was like something out of a James Bond film. It was just
it was spectacular. Like it reminded me of Ridge Racer, an old PlayStation 1 game.
Yeah,
it's like I would swear that's a course in it. You've got the tunnels, you've got the mountains and the lake, and it's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
The amount of times I said, "Oh my god, look at that view!" that weekend was
exactly
millions of times.
The area where the event was as well. The area where the event was, like Locarno, Minusio, just all around that area, just absolutely. I mean, I'd spent like a few weeks before, I'd spent a bit of time doing some research, and I'd come across a photographer on Instagram, and he does a lot of stuff around Ticino, and I'd started looking at some of his reels and looking at where they were, and I'm like, shit, that is actually in the area, like within 15, 20 minutes drive of where we're staying and where some of the locations are. And it just really boosted my excitement for the event. And then that was kind of when we started looking at somewhere to go for that 4-hour gap on the Friday, and we chose the Roman Bridge. And it was just absolutely breathtaking to the point where both me and Tom had said on the first day, we've got to come back here. Whether it's for Picvetia or not, we've got to come back to this region because I think it really warrants an actual holiday. So we have said we want to go back. Probably won't be this year because of like time off from work. One of the cosplayers who we shot with, I've shot before, is actually from like 20 minutes up the road from there as well. So we're going to like arrange a shoot for a day, do some cool stuff. But yeah, it's just, it's too good to not go back. And I think I generally found by Switzerland terms, I didn't find the pricing too bad. Like some things were ridiculous. Like, you know, it's well known, I think, that McDonald's is the most expensive in Switzerland. Of anywhere in the world. I think the average price for a McDonald's meal is best part of like 19, 20 francs.
Yeah, we
like
paid
a normal size meal
for 2 people, so that tracks.
Yeah.
But I will say though, the portioning and the quality was a lot better
than
you would get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I've never had a quality of meal from McDonald's as we had when we were in
the McFlurry's like 5 times the
one in Locarno, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were in Locarno.
No, it's Balanzona.
That was
so. Yeah, we stopped up because we needed some food. So we had like a nice gap in between some shoots.
We finished shooting on the Sunday morning, and we were like, "Oh, let's go and get breakfast at McDonald's." Oh no, they don't do breakfast in Switzerland at McDonald's. You're having a burger at 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh, that's fine.
Okay. But they had
it was just.
I remember scrolling through the list. This list was endless, and the menu bar would come up and go, "Are you still there?" I was like, "Yes, I'm still fucking out."
Still scrolling through all the burgers.
They asked me 3 times if I was still there and if I wanted to continue. I was like, "Yes, I do want to continue. I'm just trying to pick a meal here." So yeah, it was. But then when it came out, it was a nice, big, decent size, and I was just like, "Actually, yeah, it's expensive, but it's actually." Value for money was actually not too bad.
I think like we used Aldi and Lidl for most of the supermarket shopping while we were there. And I think there's some things in there that are quite pricey. But then there's other things in there that it's like dirt cheap. Like you want a bottle of wine. Oh, a bottle of Italian red wine, 2.5 francs. And you're like, really? Do I really want to try this for 2.5 francs? Well, you know what? It was actually pretty decent. You'd probably pay like 6 or 8 quid for it back here. But again, it's because it's like, it's an Italian wine and you're in the Italian region. So there's certain things that I think are a bit more local. And I think you just got to be a little bit more switched on when you're doing your shopping, and you can eat for cheap if you want to. I mean, our apartment wasn't cheap. It was like 682 quid, I think, from the Thursday to the Monday.
Yeah.
But that was for a really spacious 2-bedroom apartment.
Still cheaper than MCM.
That's
Oh, yes.
the way. I'll be honest. I don't want it to turn on a dunk on London, but it is. Yeah, I still would spend probably to stay there for the 4 or 5 days a week.
Well, I think I worked out that with my share of the apartment, food, flights, paying for the passes, all food and drink for the whole weekend from Thursday to Monday, I think I spent around about $1,000 on absolutely everything. That's like every single penny accounted for. And when you think that for a hotel for one person for MCM London, again, if you wanted to do Thursday to Monday, it would probably cost you about $1,000 just for the hotel. So, you know, when you think you're getting a whole experience with all expenses paid in Switzerland and doing 6, 8, 10 shoots with spectacular cosplayers for the same price as just a hotel for MCM London, it kind of puts it into perspective. Look, I'm not going to dunk on MCM London. You know, I've got a lot to be thankful for MCM events I've attended over the years. It's allowed me to meet a lot of new people and make some fantastic friends. But if you want something more from your cosplay photography journey, then I would urge anyone to look at events such as this and just give them a go. And that kind of brings me on to my next question, really. Like, I've been asked this a few times, but what advice would you give to anyone that hasn't attended one of these events before or hasn't attended Picvetia before, that's maybe looking to, you know, to do one, maybe looking to apply for next year? What one piece of advice would you give them?
Short of just saying do it is really, I know that's really easy to say, but don't do what I did and go, nah, there's no point. I'm not what they're looking for, or undervalue yourself, because everything we do is subjective in this. If you enjoy it and you love your art, somebody else will probably. You know, just go for it, apply. You'll get, you know, if you get rejected on your first time or whatever, that's just more feedback and stuff. There's not space for everybody, unfortunately.
No, exactly.
I'm sure they would love to have every single person go, but there isn't space for everybody, and don't necessarily take that as a knock. Just try again next time. But it's worth trying.
Definitely. Michael?
One piece of advice. Wow, that would be a tough one.
Yeah.
To try and think, because I actually had 5.
Okay.
Which I would
go
go
for it. All right, then.
Okay.
All right, go for it.
So what I would say to anyone that asks me, this is how I would pitch it to them. First, follow the event socials on Instagram. So, you know, whether it's Picvetia, Focus, Pixelmania, Volta, any of the others, follow their socials, consume that content. And I don't just mean look at the pictures, you know, tap the like, swipe to the next picture. Go follow the photographers. Go follow the cosplayers. Look at the feeds.
And assistants.
And assistants as well, yeah. Look at all of that. Look at how clean the cosplayers' feeds are, and you realize that, you know, they're posting the very best picture from maybe one event. Not 30, 40 pictures that they got back. They picked the one. That's the one that reflects them the best. Secondly, I would say, if you want to know more about it, watch the Cosplay, Togs and All Things Nerdy podcast about European cons, and there should be a link up in the screen somewhere, like a child, and that will give you a lot more information. You know, it may take you several nights to watch it through, but it'll give you an understanding of like the application process, what people are looking for, both from the photographer and the cosplayer side. So you can get a good idea of, you know, they're not just picking people because they have favoritism, because that's what a lot of people do say. And I know in the UK, people will say these events are elitist, they should be open to everybody, but
doesn't
you
feel
can't
like
have
it.
everybody there.
It doesn't feel like
it. Doesn't. No.
I
doesn't.
was a nobody when I first went to, as far as I'm concerned. I still am,
Same.
but like,
I am. Yeah,
but you've got to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
precisely.
I mean, I consider myself very lucky. My first photocon was Volta, and I applied after speaking to some people some UK togs that had been before, and that were also applying that year. And I did exactly what you said, Michael, and that was look at the content that's on their feed, look at the content that photographers have created at that event. And it was very, very quickly I realized that the approach that these guys have is 100% quality over quantity. And I was very, very fortunate to apply for Volta for the first time and get accepted on my first go. And it taught me a lot.
Yeah. We're also saying this, that we're talking about cosplay events, but also saying what Darren just said is like, look at the photographers. But if you're a cosplayer and you're looking at these events as well, it's looking not necessarily at the photo, but looking at the level of cosplay that these cosplayers are bringing to these events.
Yeah.
What are they doing? And looking how their feeds are and how they're doing things. Because I do, there's a conversation I have had with a few people where it sometimes it does feel like some cosplayers it's quantity over quality in some respects, and then I do apologize if that is wrong for anyone who is a cosplayer and watching or listening. But then you look at some of these cosplays that come to these events, and they are breathtaking, just as breathtaking as the events and the scenery. But they are looking at the locations and looking at what cosplays would work for them locations, like you would if you were going to like an outside con shoot. And then looking at all these bits and pieces and all this detail, how can they also get the best quality images back that shows off their hard work that they put in? So it works both ways when you're looking at trying to apply for these events from a photographer's point of view or a cosplayer, is like Mike was saying, is absorb that content from people that are attending these events, not just from Picvetia or Focus or any of the other photocons, but other people's feeds that they're doing things for other things that they're doing as well, and having a look at it. So, because I've had cosplayers asking me in the UK, it's like, I love what you guys are all doing over in Europe, and how do I get into that? And basically what you guys are all saying is basically what I reflect back to individuals as well.
Yeah. I mean, your first tip, Michael, I think is probably the key for anyone that is looking to get into one of these events for the first time, because you learn a lot from what the event is looking for by looking at what's on their feed. And if you look at your own feed and what you shoot and the way you shoot, and it's very, very vastly different from everything that's on there, then there's a good chance that you might not get accepted. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I'm not saying to everyone, you need to change the way you shoot to, play to the audience, but just take a look at the type of work that's being posted on there, and therefore the type of people that are being accepted. And when I say that, there's still a vast variety of style. It's not a case of every single photographer on there is shooting the same style. They all have their own style, but it's more in the terms of the quality of the lighting, the quality of the posing from the cosplayers, the way you're using the location.
Exactly.
These organizers spend so much time sourcing and arranging these locations. They want to have people there that are going to make the best of them, essentially.
And to
So
go
you
for
can learn a lot.
To go for an example of what Darren is saying about the organizers taking the time to find locations. So Romilly, who is the founder of Picvetia, she actually told us while we were at the event that she had just gone out the week or a few days before coming out for that event, and she was scouting locations for next year's event. And then a few weeks after the event, the Picvetia event finished, she was at another location scouting for that event as well.
I don't even think it was a few weeks. I think it was like a week or two.
Yeah.
Like they were like back in the German region scouting locations for next year's event.
So bear in mind, they were at Volta 3 weeks after that as well. So
exactly. So they put a lot of effort in the work.
I don't think Romy was. I think she sat this one out.
She did, yeah.
She did.
She went out to a quarry or something, I think, over Volta weekend.
Over Volta weekend.
by all means, if that's on the card for next year, that looks incredible. It looks like the quarry from Call of Duty from the original Modern Warfare. If we're going down that route.
That's cool.
We digressed a little bit. We digressed
I
a
think
little
Michael
bit.
had a few more.
Yeah, sorry, you're on.
Yeah.
So
I'm
read
interested to hear 'em.
Some of it actually comes back to, like, follows on from what Dan was saying. Is like, say, look at your own work and compare it, but not just sort of look at it and think, oh, I'm not going to be good enough. Because honestly, that's how I feel. Right. When I look at my work years ago, I looked and thought, my God, I am never going to be as good as these. And yet somehow I got picked. Not once now, but twice. And it's like, okay, maybe there is some, as you've said, they see something in my work that I don't see. But the other thing is, you don't even always have to go to these events to up your game. You've got SecretCon in the UK. You have locations. Start thinking instead of thinking of shooting in, say, typical con hall situations where you're trying to block out as much of the distracting backgrounds because there's really nothing nice to look at. You've got incredible places. Find corners where you can use a bit more space. Shoot a little wider. Start thinking about, if you are doing an out-of-con shoot, think of going even wider still and use the landscape as part of your storytelling. That's something that, they talked about in other cons. They want to see how that's being used. Is it just a backdrop? Or are you actually making them do something with it? It's trying to change the way you think about how you shoot. Because normally, you're dealing with, a fast moving convention where everybody wants to be just running around shooting, and you get someone for 2 or 3 minutes, you're lucky. You've got maybe up to 2 hours with somebody, so you need to be able to crank it, really think of some ideas. And I admit I struggle with things like that sometimes. So that there are things that I know, though, I have to do better at next time, because I'm sure, we all do the same thing. When we see the pictures coming back from other people who've shot with the same cosplayer we've shot, and we're like, oh my God, how did they get that shot? Why did I think of that?
That's happened in this room. So
exactly.
me and Darren had a back-to-back shoot with the same cosplayer.
Yeah.
Darren posted his work, and it made me go, maybe I can go back to the editing drawing board and have another go. But that is kind of what this is. It's inspiration.
Exactly.
Following, you said, step one, follow the account.
At the same time, it is very easy to get sucked into feeling like that. Tom will know, and I was feeling like that during the event on the first day, because I was seeing some of the stuff that people were posting on their stories about their shoots, where they were shooting, the locations they were using, how they were using them. And I was starting to feel already on like the morning of the first day that I'd fucked up, that I hadn't chose the right locations, that I'd just gone with the flow on letting the cosplayers choose some of the locations instead of doing more research myself, and that I wasn't using locations to the best I could possibly use them. And I kind of had to step back and have a word with myself and go, actually, no, the locations you're shooting at fit the cosplay you're shooting, and you're shooting them in a way that suits your style and way of working. And everybody's different, and you can see these amazing shots and go, shit, I fucked up there, or I need to go back to the drawing board. But in actual fact, you're two very different people with probably very different styles. And unless you're looking to aspire to shoot in that exact same style as what you're looking at from another photographer, then it's no point feeling bad about your own shot, because if you're totally different, your shots are never going to look like that. That's not to say your shots are bad. They're just different. And you need to remember that you are there because you were chosen by the organizers, because they saw something in your work, and you are there shooting with that cosplayer because that cosplayer chose to shoot with you for a reason. But it's very easy to forget that. Like I say, I've done a few of these events now. I've been shooting for 30 years in total. And even I got bogged down with feeling like that on the first day of the event.
Another thing to kind of add to that point as well is that even if you're comparing yourself to another photographer, even if that photographer having a similar or same style as you, even though they don't have the same style, there is certain characteristics that will be different between yourself and them.
Yeah.
So even though you look at them and go, shit, that's really fucking cool, I wish I'd done that. But what you've done is you've taken something, even if it's in a location, you think, oh shit, I could have done that location. That's great. It's hindsight. But what you've done is you've got this hour and a half to 2 hours to work with this cosplayer in a location, even if you've picked it or not picked it. But sometimes that's part of the fun and the enjoyment of trying to work out how you're going to do this in the first place. You're assessing the location, you're like, right, how am I going to create this image or this story or do justice to this character that this person's bringing? And it really makes you think outside the box and really puts you on your toes a little bit more so than what it would be. And not to slate cons again here, but con halls, con locations are all very generic ideas. You do generally, even if someone's got a different style, you generally sometimes do end up getting very similar images. But again, you come down to lighting, posing, time of day, everything like that can all play a factor in how your shot will look completely different to someone else's shot. And there's no right or wrong answer when it comes round to it. It's only what you can do as the individual. I do it all the freaking time. I work with Darren quite often. We got very similar styles, and the amount of times I go, hey, look, I've done this. And then he goes, yeah, I've done this too. I'm like, oh, you fucking asshole. So I get it but it also in some ways, it allows you to kind of go, hang on. Okay, yeah, they've done it like that, but is there anything I can go back to now my image, and is there any tweaks I can do to make me feel like I can improve it?
Yeah.
And even
also
I thought
also as well. Go on, sorry, Michael. Go on.
Yeah, the sort of thing I was thinking about is when I sort of see what they're doing, is I think, like, what are they doing differently from what I'm doing? What do I need to do to close that gap a little bit? There's some elements of something I'm missing out. I mean, one of the things I have done for this was more research into the characters. Because again, as you've said, you might end up shooting people who are completely out of styles, which you don't know anything about. And, normally we would freeze up and go, we like default to the usual sort of typical characters we know all the poses for. But when you get something completely left field, it's like, well, okay, now what do I do? So I went up and did research on things. So, I mean, I've played games. I've played Assassin's Creed Odyssey for one shoot. I've played, what was the other game? I've just finished Final Fantasy 16, which I did a fire shoot with a cosplayer with. I play Monster Hunter. So I kind of have a feel for these characters. I also had to watch an anime for one of my characters because it was something, I mean, I've watched a lot of anime, but this is like one I've never heard of, which was probably about more than 10, maybe 20 years old. And I had to watch that to get a whole feel of the character, to understand that person a bit more, to try and bring out the best, because they really seem to be very intent on cosplaying this character. And I remember the comments in the Discord were like, wow, that's old. Haven't seen that in years. So it's very kind of almost like a retro anime character.
This is something you see quite a lot. This is something you see quite a lot from the European photocons as well, is it's not always the latest and greatest characters, movies, TV shows. People cosplay stuff because they love it. And it might be from something that's 20 years old that really wasn't even that popular at the time. Or it might be from some little indie game somewhere. People cosplay for the love because of the connection to that character. And I think that's one of the things that really inspires me to go to these events. But just coming back to it a little bit, like, also remember that whilst you're looking at some shots that other people have done at the event, maybe even with the same cosplayer at a similar location, and you're thinking, oh shit, that's amazing. Maybe I should have done something different. There's a bloody good chance out of the 60 odd photographers that were at that event that there'll be somebody looking at your shots and thinking the same. I guarantee it.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that already. I put a post out because I'm going to Dokumi next week. And I picked up a selection of pictures that I've shot over the 2 previous years that I've been. And one cosplayer replied last night saying, your work is incredible. How come I've never seen this? And I thought, I really wanted to say, well, it's Instagram, It doesn't show you to the right people. And I've had 1 or 2 people message me saying, I've seen my friends posting your pictures. I really like your style.
Yeah.
Really?
There is definitely something to be said. There is definitely something to be said for social media. Once you start shooting at these events and start working and interacting more with the European cosplay community, the more you're able to engage and they start to see your work. And then, this is how I ended up getting although I'm not at MCM this weekend, I had 3 or 4 European cosplayers who I've never worked with. I've not seen them at European photocons, but they'd seen my work posted by either me or friends of theirs. And they were like, oh, I'm going to be at MCM this weekend. I'd love to work with you. I love your work. And it does start to snowball like that. So, Michael, any more tips?
Yeah, you think you got one more? Sorry, we keep getting off track.
I think where I was getting to, because I think the idea of like taking a look at your own work, working out what you want to do next, and ultimately, I think maybe it's the case of, I suppose, believe in yourself, apply, but maybe apply with the idea, I'm not expecting to get it, but have it in mind that if I do, I've got to commit to this.
Yeah.
Because of how the organizers will react if you decide to just suddenly pull out. Apply with purpose. Think about, I really want to do this. If I don't get it, okay, no biggie. Don't get salty about it because, we know that there's been some salt recently about other events and people not getting in. And I'm like, come on. If we had the same people in every time, everyone will just be complaining about the organizers saying, oh, you always let the same people in every year. You've got to do something to encourage new people into this. And what I liked about the podcast with the, what's the word then? But the organizers of Picvetia was the fact that they were saying they were looking to like bring new people in and they like to see what happens to them afterwards. And I thought it made me think about the sort of thought was like, do you, and I don't know whether this applies, it's going to apply to, as photographers, as cosplayers, do you ever remember the person that, like reached out a hand to you and helped you get that step up that 100%. First time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that's very important.
And I think, it is. I mean, that's something that, can work both ways. Everyone can benefit from that.
Yeah. I mean, I shot with quite a few people at this Picvetia that it was not only their first time at Picvetia, but it was their first photocon, full stop.
Yes, same here.
And I came away with some absolutely fantastic shots with them. I think for me, we've covered quite a lot on this subject, but for me, if I was to pick one tip on top of everything we've talked about, it would be to push yourself, challenge yourself. Don't play it safe. Definitely. As you said, it's very easy to turn to your comfort zone and your go-to. I quickly realized when I did my first organizing for Volta that I've got some real amazing opportunities here. And because I was late out the starting blocks as organizing shoots for Volta, that I didn't get all of the first choice cosplayers and cosplays that I initially put down in my list. So I was getting people messaging me and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't normally shoot that character, that style, that fandom. Never shot it before, but I really love the aesthetic of it. And I think I could do something with it. So I tried that at Volta with a few shoots and came away with some amazing, fantastic shots back in 2024. So then I set myself a goal for every future photocon I went to at least have a third of my shoots that are outside of my comfort zone. The further, the better, but go for quality. Pick something that you think is a bit out there, but in a good way, that you can really, really do something with. And I've done this a few times now, and every single time I come away with something amazing, and it makes me want to push myself more. So yeah, I would say to anyone really, don't stick within your comfort zone. Do something different. As we've already said, when in Rome, you're in this amazing country working with amazing people in amazing locations. So why not take a chance? You might just find a new fandom that you love, or you might make a new friend because you're shooting with someone that you have to communicate with more to get a feel for what it is you're shooting. And yeah, that's the best advice I could give, really.
I've got a point. I'm sorry, I've got a point on this
go
as
for it.
well. Don't worry about your social media followers, the number. Don't worry about numbers. As in what I'm saying is, don't think that you need to have a high number of followers to be able to apply and attend these events.
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't make any difference. They don't look at them.
They don't look at it.
Luckily, they share the scoring. A lot of these events share how they score or rate cosplayers or photographers.
Yes.
Based on criteria, and not a single one of them has ever mentioned social following.
No.
And if you want to know what the criteria is for, say, like Picvetia, like we've mentioned already on the episode, we have had a chat with the organizer. We've had a chat with Picvetia. They've explained it all in the episode of the podcast, but it's also on their website. But I can say for a fact that the guys here have worked with probably cosplayers that have probably had a couple of hundred followers, and also some that have had thousands of followers.
I mean, Darren pointed out to me, he was like, "Oh, that cosplayer you worked with," and I'd look at there, and I was like, "I didn't even notice. That's crazy." Like, it's not something I look for, and it's not something they look for.
This is something I was going to add to Tom's point, which is a very good point, by the way. When you are planning your shoots, do the same. Don't base it on how many followers a cosplayer has got. When I'm looking for planning shoots, I look at what the cosplayer is doing. If they've not posted their cos plans, then I'll look at what they've done on their feed or the images they've submitted to the event. I won't even look at the follower number. I would say a good portion of the cosplayers I shot with at Picvetia this time were probably well under the 5K mark. Some of them only a few hundred followers. It's really not a reflection on the quality of the cosplayer or the cosplay. Like some of the best shoots I've done at these events have been with cosplayers with very, very small follow counts.
So yeah,
they really don't seem to put the same sort of focus on it as we do perhaps here in the UK.
So that's the thing, is like, don't worry about your engagement. Don't worry about your follower count. If you want to do an event like this, like we've mentioned just now, it is looking at people who have attended the event and looking at the event. Don't worry about your follower count because it is not relevant.
Plus, if you don't just follow these pages for like the best mood board, inspiration boards you could possibly think of, because these pages will post photos in the most stunning locations. And yeah, it's the best mood board, the best inspiration.
So I think that's it for from a pointer point of view there. What's next on the agenda?
We're going to talk about assistance because I think that is a really, it's probably one of
that's my moment to shine.
It's probably one of the most sort of under-talked elements of these kind of events, and certainly from a UK perspective, because assistants aren't really normalized here in the UK, I find. But you go to these photocons in Europe and they are seen as the norm. People that don't have assistants are kind of seen as the odd ones out. Some people even have 2-3 assistants. So I think for most of the events, you can have up to 3 assistants. Take the drive-in element out of it. I couldn't do these events without an assistant. There is so much to it when you're trying to be creative with lighting, setups, the amount of gear you have to lug around. You want to capture BTS stuff for socials. There is just so much to think about and so much to do that assistants are, for me, a necessity. But not just from the shoots themselves, just the whole having somebody with you for that adventure, having some moral support, having someone to give you a kick up the arse when you're beating yourself up over something, or your mental health's in the gutter and you're thinking that you're shit and you can't do this. Just having that support person there to really help you through that event, I think is worth its weight in gold, and someone to share the experience with as well. I think, I couldn't do it without an assistant, full stop.
I've got a question for you here. Then, coming from an assistant point of view, for you guys, especially James and Michael here, going to these events and looking at the fact that you took assistants with you, is there elements of that that you would bring back into the UK when you're shooting? Would you prefer to have an assistant now, or would you go back slightly
100%. Yeah.
to doing it all yourself?
The problem is with everyone that I would have as assistant, anyone that I would like to share that experience with here deserves to be at these events. That's the issue I find. Anyone that I would I don't want to say trust, but yeah, trust to an aspect with handing me my 85mm lens, for example, without dropping it, I believe should be at these events and taking part. So that's the hardest part. And I would love to have an assistant at SecretCon to carry my bags around, but anyone that I would want with me for that deserves to be there or is there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, everywhere should have an assistant. Everything.
That's kind of why me and Tom end up duo shooting a lot at these events, like SecretCon, MCM, because it is, and it's you can assist and shoot. So we kind of like tandem shoot, and we've done that a lot over the last sort of year. And then obviously Tom's assisted me at Focus last year, and then Picvetia this year, and that was the reason we decided to apply to Focus this year as a duo. And we put it out there about maybe having an assistant. We did have a couple lined up, but things have changed, and now we're like, well, if we don't take anyone else with us, we know we can manage ourselves and still both shoot, because we've done it before at events here in the UK. But it would also be nice to have that extra person with us to be able to help on set, stop a light from falling over.
Well. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. BTS stuff, social media. We would actually love to have someone with us for Focus, just to run our socials and do BTS. So we'd give them the login for our Nexus socials, because we're going to Focus as Nexus. So we'd just give them the login, or give them one of our phones for them to do BTS, post live stuff, just, because that in itself is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the criticisms I've got when I do these trips is I never get time to do enough BTS and capture enough stuff for reels. And then I don't always have the time afterwards when I get back to make the reels. So if you can have someone with you that can help you with that during the trip, it's really worth its weight in gold. And I think that's something, again, that should be normalized more here in the UK.
So with that kind of said, like, for you guys, do you think that you could get some of the shots that you've got without an assistant being at Picvetia?
No. One of the shots that we're going to talk about later, there is no way I could have got it how I had it if I didn't send my assistant into an active waterfall. You know what I mean? Balancing on the edge of a slippery rock, risking her life for the shot. I mean, the cosplayer as well, you'll see the cosplayer managed to get over there as well. But every time you see an assistant, you see a cosplayer on the edge of a cliff or the edge of a rock or in the middle of a waterfall, there's usually someone holding a light stand right next to them. So very important, and I cannot stress this enough. Assistance.
And the other thing as well is
absolutely vital.
When you see the cosplayer in that shot on the edge of a rock or in a waterfall, it's not camera trickery and angles. They've actually trekked in there. They are like 110% committed. And then you see photographers like waist deep in water, wading into a river to get that shot as well. Light stands balanced in water, and it's just next level effort by everybody.
I watched a photographer crawl out of the beach in Focus last year who realized they had a lens in their pocket.
I remember that.
Water.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, oh yes, remember that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think assistants are an essential thing. I mean, I do bring an assistant with me to SecretCon. I've sort of had standby assistants basically because I pressed family members into being assistants. Yeah, it's one of the joys of having children. You can train them up to become assistant slaves. Neither of them drive, sadly, so I still would really like to have someone who could drive because it would take some of the strain off for me. But having an extra person holding on to things, stopping things from falling over, that in itself is a must. Being able to shoot BTS while you're working or assisting the cosplayer in maybe moving something, because I like to sort of stay away from any sort of contact if possible. Maybe just a prop occasion. I'll just ask, could you just move that here? But if it comes to like, oh, I need something doing, I say, is it okay if my assistant can assist with you with this? But then the cosplayers have their own assistants as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, which is another good thing for getting BTS.
Exactly. You've always got extra pairs of hands.
Assistants mainly for the BTS stuff because that's
because you utilize them as extra pairs of hands on set to do things. Because when you look at things like commercial shoots in studios, there's always an assistant, a makeup artist, hairstylist. There's all sorts of people there to make that shoot happen, and they'll be there doing their own bits. There's no reason why we can't have the same thing here. It elevates the quality of your production. A good assistant should be like almost like a butler, sort of anticipate what you need when you need it, be able to hand you the thing as you're waiting for it. I still have some training to do on that. Maybe that's a training course that Darren could possibly offer through Nexus, assistant training, how to train assistants, effective assistants.
To be able
to say, here, once you've done this course, you can go out in the field and you will be competent.
Nexus qualified.
Exactly.
Not a bad idea.
But again, it just
we
makes
almost
that
need
difference.
we almost need like a network where people can register to be an assistant and they're on your list, and like everyone, all the photographers in the community then
because that's
we've
one of the
we've got like
challenges.
Because there is that in the commercial industry, but there's not one for sort of like the cosplay community. And the assistant doesn't necessarily have to be a photographer; it might be a cosplayer. But if there was a network of such where people could register to, yes, I'm happy to be an assistant, and they're kind of like not vetted as such, but almost something like that. I think that could be great. I mean, like we said, the cosplayers always have their own assistants, and what I generally find is like Tom will be assisting me, but then he'll also be networking with the cosplayer's assistant. They'll be sharing their own socials so that they can share their BTS footage with each other. And then like we get back from the event, and I've got, we've got this massive folder on Dropbox that we've set up, and Tom puts his stuff in, plus the stuff that the cosplay assistants have sent him. And we just end up with this massive pool of BTS stuff that I never do anything with.
We just need editors.
That's the problem at the moment. Although I have, before I get onto that a little bit, like I say, I think it's important to have assistants. And I remember, and that was one of the challenges I had, was actually trying to find an assistant, because I did put out asking for an assistant, because I wanted to give somebody an opportunity to come along and experience this. So especially, if there's a photographer in the group or, somewhere out there who is at that point now where they feel like the UK scene isn't enough for them and they are ready to take that step. Their work clearly shows it. They just don't know
learn
what
more
to
about
do.
it.
I would happily say I would take you along with me, as long as you can just fulfill a few things to help me out because of my own health issues and that. And it means it gives me something that I can, fall back on and hopefully not fall over on. Because as you can see, that scene behind me, that was treacherous to walk around that. BTS shooting was very static for this. It was just, though, I said to myself, don't even try walking around this. This is asking for an accident waiting to happen. But, that would have been an immense help. And I think it also, giving people that chance to see it and then come away from it, if you think about it, okay, so it could almost be practically a free holiday if it came to it. If I was just paying it for all of them, you just got to take the time off work and make the commitment to be there, do what I'm asking you to do. But obviously you can act as a sounding board if you've got a better idea or something. I'm always open to something, because you never know what you might walk away from and think, damn, I didn't try that. Well, if somebody had to give you that prod, you might just walk away with that shoot you didn't think you would get. And they go away with the idea. And I think the other thing is that they can come away from that. The takeaway for them is they can see what's involved without as much of the pressure. Because I think what we haven't talked about in this is the expectation. In my head, the perceived expectation from the cosplayers is that much higher on the photographers. They expect us to be really pumping out.
You're putting that on
A-grade
yourself
stuff
as well. Well, at least
Yeah,
I am.
exactly.
I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to deliver A grade, as you say, and then you're hoping the cosplayers want that too. So you've got the pressure of everybody expecting the best from you.
Yeah, but what I also wonder is like maybe the reason some people don't want to go from it, and I don't know whether Tom can elaborate on this, is whether you feel like being an assistant and being a photographer who does cosplay, did it feel to you the first time that it was like being on the subs bench watching your team play, but I'm not playing the game?
I mean, it's a great analogy.
This would be a good one for you, actually, Tom, because I know you applied for Picvetia and were unfortunate and didn't get accepted, despite the fact as we'd all been on the podcast, and it just proves that not everyone can get in because there isn't enough space. So this is an interesting one. I'm looking forward to hearing from your side.
So, I mean, I know we'll talk about Picvetia in this one, but I'll take us back to a bit of focus for a little bit of context here. So I attended last year with Darren, September, to Focus, my first ever photocon. Now, I was at that sort of place where we're talking about sort of looking for that next sort of step. I was getting kind of stale with the UK scene and seeing what Darren was doing, like you guys did as well, with like the whole Volta situation, Picvetia, stuff like that. And I was like, do you know what? That's really something I want to do. But the self-confidence and doubt in myself as a photographer was almost weighing me down, just preventing me from having that confidence to apply and putting myself forward to do it. So I was quite happy to come to Focus and take on the assistant role to see what these events are like and how they operate, how they're different from the UK, blah, blah, blah. So that then really pushed me to want to apply for Picvetia this year. As Darren said, I was unfortunate. I didn't get accepted in, but again, it's not the end of the world. They have a small amount of people that they can accept into these events. Everyone is highly talented. I'm not salty at the fact that I didn't get in. And I'm fortunate enough to know the organizers because we do this podcast. We had them on. We've had conversations, even private DM. So the fact that I don't get in because I have a connection with the organizers of these type of events actually makes me feel kind of great to actually push and promote these events in some ways, because it's not who it is. They are taking it seriously and they are making sure that they give that opportunity out there. And I know we've mentioned that previously, but going back to sort of what Darren's question was, from a photographer point of view, there is an element of jealousy, because my relationship with Darren as well, we have great band, we have that chemistry. We do work together in the UK where we bounce between shooting and assisting each other. So when you go to these events, you do get that kind of I fucking hate you moments, because you're doing this really fucking cool thing, and I want to be that. It gets my creative energy going, and it makes me really go, I really want to do that. But then it also then pushes me then to go down and go, right, I'm seeing this, and this is what my thoughts are, and going from that sort of perspective a little bit. So kind of it does allow me to still be creative and give ideas over and still have that. And kind of my main effort as the assistant is to support and help Darren and see how it can benefit him. As much as I get jealous and I take the piss out of him constantly saying, you're an asshole, you're a dick, I fucking hate you, all this sort of stuff. If I didn't give him that level of abuse, it wouldn't make him smile, and he would then retreat back into himself and be a bit more nervous about doing something. And everyone now is going, Darren get nervous. No, he does. He takes these things very, very, very serious. But I've learned that
you wouldn't be where you were if you didn't take it seriously.
Exactly. And I think I kind of came into Picvetia very differently this time, because I'd done it for Focus as the assistant role. I came into this knowing what a European photocons like. I know what it was like to assist Darren at one of these events and how it all works. So that pressure on me was very much like, I came into it very sort of chill, very sort of mellow, because I knew that it's not about me. I'm here to support Darren. I'm here to support the cosplayers that he's working with. I'm here to support and help and try and push that element to it. All I get nervous about is I don't want to fuck up what I'm trying to do. You know, it's like, am I all right with like being here? You know, but there is certain telltale signs with when you are working with someone on a close basis that you start to learn what it is that they like from their shot. I know Darren likes it more if I stand on the left-hand side with the light and in certain positions. So you kind of get that sort of like your own little sort of language or that mental telepathic points are going right, you know exactly where you want it. Yeah. But then again, that will just come down to that understanding we work together on a regular basis. They're not going to have that straight away. But I think from a photographer point of view, being an assistant and something like this, it is very useful and it is a massive learning ability to do it. Because you're not just learning like what is someone, Darren's doing with the camera. You're also learning about how would you light it, but how are they doing it? And you can take away, you can learn so much more that you can bring back into your own work. And that, to me, makes being an assistant just as key as supporting them, but you're also taking away something from that experience to be able to put into your own work.
Yeah, because
I think you also learn about the processes of the event as well, especially if you get on board as the assistant for that photographer quite early on. You learn about the whole process, and then whilst you're there, you learn about how the event works. And, so then you can decide if you do want to apply yourself, then if you do get in, you kind of already know how things work. So it's less of a learning curve. Like when I did Volta for the first time, I jumped straight into a European photocon for Volta as a photographer. And that was a steep learning curve. I don't mind admitting that. It was a steep learning curve. It is a completely different way of working to what we're used to here in the UK, even compared to things like SecretCon. Just the way they work at these events, the way the cosplayers work, what they like, what they, I won't say demand, but, what their requirements and needs are very, very different to what they are from perhaps working with cosplayers in the UK. I think I can imagine how useful it would be to be an assistant as a photographer who might be aspiring to attend these events in the future.
I mean, it's like you say, like, wouldn't be able to get half the shots or the look, let's say the look of the shots really without sort of the assistants being there. Because like James was saying, he had Harry in a waterfall. I mean,
I didn't have to ask either. She was climbing down there, sliding down a waterfall because she knew where I wanted the light already before I even said anything.
Exactly.
See, this is it as well, because you've worked with Harry. Obviously, she's your partner, but she's assisted you a lot in the past. And this is like the same with me and Tom, is that, you don't always necessarily build that rapport and learn straight away. But me and Tom have worked together quite a bit now. And if you can find an assistant where the two of you like working together regularly, that also really, really helps, because like Tom said, you get to know where the photographer might want to start with the light, or in that scene which side or what angle, or you just get to learn the way that person works. And occasionally they might throw the odd curveball, like the assistant will go and clamber over a load of rocks through a waterfall, and then the photographer will go, well, actually, I want to light it from the right this time.
Yeah, go that way.
And you think, you fucking asshole, everything else has been on the left, now you want it on the right. And now I have to, okay, I was just on the right. You could have told me that before. Yeah.
Well, yeah, go there. Oh, actually, wait, no, go there. No, actually, go back where you were.
Yeah. But the thing is, even as an assistant, and the fact that me and Darren have worked so regularly often, doesn't mean I still get it right every single time. So there will be a point where he'll sit there and be like, something's just not quite right. And then he'll have to come over and be like, actually, but that's because it's easier for him to then direct to where he wants it versus trying to explain it to me. Even though
that is another reason why I personally like to work with an assistant who is also a photographer, because they already have, they might be a relatively new photographer, but they still have that way of thinking. So you can kind of use them to bounce ideas off as well. You know, like this is another thing what we were saying about, could you get those shots the way you have and get the same results without having an assistant? And there is a reasonable number of times where I can definitely say absolutely no. And it's not because of where the light needed to be or whatever. It's because I needed that sort of creative conversation with someone that understands to go, what isn't working here? What can we do that's different? And you'll bounce ideas off, or the assistant might say, well, have you thought about this? And it's that creative. It's a team. It is a team. You know, you are the person that's been accepted as a photographer, but when you're there with your assistant, you are a team, 100%.
I think a great example of this is, I'm going to say Jun, both at Focus and at Picvetia. So for people that don't know, we work with this incredible cosplayer, Jun. She's from Switzerland. We met her at Focus in September, and it was actually a fluke that we worked with her in September because she was actually down, had a cancellation, and he was like, I might just leave that space for you. So you're going to be upset if you didn't, you know, what happens if this is one person, if you didn't put it out there, you're going to regret it. He was going to go regret this, trust me. So lucky enough, he did it. He went and booked this person, and probably we went and shot sort of like, I call it like a Napoleon look because it was very like Napoleon-esque style. You would have seen on his profile anyway. But we were in this bedroom in this massive, manor house type thing, but in France. And it wasn't necessarily me having to hold the light because the position that she was sat down in a chair. You didn't need me to hold the light. But we were looking, going, right, Dan's looking at this, how do I work this? How am I going to do this? And we started pitching ideas. I said, well, how about we do like X, Y, and Z? And then Dan's like, love that. But then also, why don't we do this with that? And we then do from here or from here. And like, we'll end up talking random gibberish. Everyone listening to the conversation would probably be like, what the fuck are these two talking about? Because it's not English.
It's your own language.
It's in our own language, but we understand what we're talking about. And do you know what? Yeah. That some of the like really great shots that Darren's got have been from stuff like that. And I'm not even holding a light. I'm actually just there observing what's going on. And like, well, how about we try? What about if you try like this? And he's trying. It just was definitely a creative process as a team. And as Tom said, I wasn't even supposed to be shooting with this particular cosplayer. I put a post on the Discord to see if I could pick up any last minute shoots. I was going to leave the time free. And as Tom said, he said, like, I think you'll regret it if you don't put it out there. And I picked up 2 shoots. One was with a cosplayer that I'd shot with already that day on the Friday, who said, really enjoyed working with you. I'm doing this on the Sunday. Would you like to shoot again? And I was like, hell yes. And then I got a message from, it was actually Jun's assistant saying, just seen your post, looking to pick up a shoot. Would you like to shoot with my cosplayer? And they sent me a picture, not only of the cosplay, but it was a shot of Jun in it, taken by another photographer. And it was Mary Spencer from Trinity Blood. And the strange thing was that the cancellation that I'd had originally for that slot on I think it was a Sunday, was also supposed to be Mary Spencer Trinity Blood. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this. She looks absolutely incredible. Let's give it a go. And we turned up at the location. The cosplayer was actually ill. They'd picked up a bug over the weekend. And you could clearly tell that she wasn't well. And we had a chat. And I said, look, are you okay to still do the shoot? It's really no issue if you need to cancel. It's not a problem. I need to put your health and well-being first. And she was like, no, absolutely. We've both taken the time to be here. I'd really like to continue the shoot. And I didn't really know the character. This was one of those shoots that even my original slot for that day for Mary Spencer, it was one of those wild cards where I'd said, right, I'm going to, the character looks fantastic. Don't know much about the character, but I want to give it a go. So when I agreed to do this with John, it was very much the same. But instantly we were sort of chatting about ideas as we were walking into the venue, and it was this beautiful chateau. And already I started to pick up a vibe for the character purely because of the way she was
putting the information across. But again, not knowing the character, so really having to go that extra mile for which bit of the chateau we were going to use, how we're going to light it. If I'd have been on my own, I would have struggled. Not having an assistant, I definitely would have struggled. And having Tom there as an assistant who understands not only photography, but how I work was absolutely invaluable to that process. And we bounced ideas off one another. And I would say, considering that was a wild card shoot that was never supposed to happen, I came away from the weekend with that being probably my best shoot of the weekend. But it just goes to show that having someone there to be a part of that creative process and to bounce ideas off, as Tom said, some of that shoot, he didn't even have to hold the light. We were indoors. There's no way it was going to blow over. In fact, a couple of shots we did, I didn't use any light at all because we tried a shot in one of the windows. I had this vision in my head that I wanted to do, and I tried it with artificial light, and it just wasn't working. And the light just looked spectacular as it was. So I just said to Tom, I was like, just chill, just get some BTS. I'm going to try some natural light shots. And yeah, it just worked. But as I say, without an assistant being there, it just wouldn't. In fact, without Tom being there and saying to me, I think you should put yourself out there to get some cancellations, that shoot would have never even happened in the first place. And I've since gone on to shoot with that cosplayer
At Picvetia.
again at Picvetia. Originally, I was planned to shoot with her once on the Saturday. And I sort of chatted to John quite a bit between sort of focus and in the planning for Picvetia. And again, she was doing a cosplay that I didn't know. It was Seto from A Path to Nowhere. No idea what the character was. And I said this to her when we agreed to shoot. But she was like, it's fine. I trust your style. She explained a bit about the character and I did some research. And it was one of them. I'm normally a meticulous planner, a bit of a control freak. And I like to have everything planned well in advance. And normally if I haven't, that really stresses me the fuck out. Now, coming into Picvetia, right up until the point where we flew out, me and John still hadn't set a location for our Saturday shoot. We still didn't know where we were going to shoot this. Now, normally this would be really stressing me out. But strangely, having worked with John before and how well the shoot worked out and how relaxed it was, something inside me said, it's fine, doesn't matter, because I've got Tom with me again. We can work together as a team, and it will come together. And then I think we bumped into her on the Thursday at HQ.
She still hadn't. She had narrowed it. She narrowed it down to two locations.
Yeah, I'd given her some ideas of some possible locations that might work for the character, and said these might work. What do you think? And she said on the Thursday, I'll have a look and let you know. And I think it was on the Friday evening.
No, it was Saturday morning.
Friday evening, we'd kind of narrowed it down even further. Saturday morning, we actually, I think, agreed the location of where it was going to be.
I think it was on the it was on the drive to the first shoot.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there telling you, can you message June and find out where she wants to shoot?
Yeah. We kind of loosely agreed it, but I was just waiting on the final. Yeah. We agreed it, semi-agreed it the night before. We were just waiting on final confirmation. But it didn't stress me out because I knew that I was going to get fantastic quality shots with this cosplayer wherever we shot. And then I'd also said to her on the Friday night, because I'd got some space on the Sunday morning, and I was due to be shooting with her at Volta, but unfortunately I'd had to drop out because of my back. So I'd said to her, well, if by some chance you've had any cancellations for Sunday, I'd really love to shoot your Sunday cosplay, because she was doing a cosplay from a sort of Japanese illustrator. Zico, I think, is the the illustrator's name. It's a fantastic cosplay. And I'd kind of watched her stories putting it together. And she was like, well, I haven't had any cancellations, but I'm free before 10 a.m. I was like, I'm happy to do an early morning shoot. And then in the end, we ended up doing another shoot over Picvetia weekend with that cosplay, because we both worked well together. We were happy to do it. And again, we worked as a team. Couldn't have done it without Tom again, because the way we work just gels.
I think the thing that outstanding was
he did knock my light over at the end of that shoot, but I'll forgive him for that.
Yeah, that's getting sorted.
See, you weren't the only
we're
one
both
to lose an
casualties of that one.
8300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done well. He's taken him 2 hours to mention it.
Yeah, so yeah, 2
happens.
hours before.
I mean, I couldn't go the whole podcast without mentioning it. But shit happens. You've got to be prepared for stuff like that to happen. And we planned ahead. Again, this is another thing.
Yes, we didn't plan ahead me smashing the light. That wasn't planned.
Sabotage.
We'd spoke before when we were gear packing about what each of us should take. And Tom's got a couple of 8300s himself. And we said, right, take them. We may not use them. I'm taking my 8300, my 8100 and my LEDs. We may not use them, but if we have a piece of equipment that fails because flash bulbs can blow,
You doomed yourself by saying that.
then we've got equipment as a backup. And as luck would have it, we did. Otherwise, we'd have struggled for the rest of the day on that Sunday. But again, that's another good thing for having a photographer that you know coming with you as an assistant, because you can take extra gear and you can plan for accidents to happen. And again, if I was traveling alone and I hadn't got an assistant and that flash had gone over, then I would have been fucked, really, because I just had my AD100 left to shoot with for the rest of the day.
The thing is, at some of them locations you're at, you just can't have a light stand on its own without being supported in a lot of them locations, because you're in the mountains. It's windy.
Absolutely.
Ground's uneven.
Exactly.
I mean, for Volta, I don't think my light stand was a tripod once. I think my assistant held it pretty much every shoot we were at, except the factory.
Yeah.
Because the grounds are just, you're out in the mountains, in the waterfalls, in stone quarries. There's no flat floor.
Sometimes you got really bright sunlight, so you're having to use bigger soft boxes than you would normally back home here, which catch the wind, fall over sometimes, weigh a ton. So yeah, the assistants, the unsung heroes, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Even for the cosplayers, because they'll repair props, they'll help you with them. Like if you got to get them change the poses, because 9 times out of 10, the assistants are actually friends of black cosplayers sometimes,
and cosplayers themselves as well.
Friends,
So
partners,
and cosplayers themselves. Cosplayers themselves. So that whole element of, do you mind if I, it's always polite to always ask them questions, but if you've got the assistant there who's with that cosplayer, that they've generally got that bond with that person to be able to do that anyway. So
I've usually sorted it out
as well.
before you mentioned it. Usually,
the other thing I want to say is there's no ego either. I mean, I know for Volta, like Shushu from Focus attended Volta as an assistant for her photographer friend. She runs one of these photocons, and there's no ego, no bullshit. No like, oh, I'm not going to be an assistant because I want to go and attend as a cosplayer or a photographer myself. No, she was there as an assistant for her friend, and
dragging a light stand, dragging a light stand up a hill, because we bumped into it, dragging a light stand up a hill in the middle of the night. Yeah. We were on the way to get gelato, and they were still working.
Yeah.
Same. So I really, really can't stress this enough, that we should start to normalize assistants more in the UK. Perhaps not at things like MCM, because it's difficult. You can't even use a light stand at MCM.
£102 a ticket to get your assistant in. So there is that.
Well, if it work like how we do, sometimes it's easier because you both shoot at the same time and you can both hold a light stand and you don't get security pissing you off.
Yeah, there is that. But in theory, at MCM, there's no light stands to hold because you can't use them.
grip.
So anyway,
Oh yeah, it's like now, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So now that we're all back home and the hype's calmed down, perhaps not as much for you, James, because obviously you pretty
His
much
hype's never down. at
3
this
weeks
rate.
later you were at
I was
Volta.
straight into Volta. Yeah.
Have your feelings and emotions changed towards what you were feeling at the event? I know for me, I don't know what it was about this time at Picvetia, but the con blues, as we call it here, really hit me hard this time. I think it was a combination of things. The fact that I'd had such an amazing time, you know, got a lot of time and love for the organisers at Picvetia as well. They do a fantastic job. Met some amazing people that, you know, have almost gone on to become friends with since. The region itself really sort of stole a little piece of my heart. But like, it took me weeks to sort of kind of get over the event, not physically, although I did feel pretty broken. But yeah, it's I think it was similar for you as well, wasn't it, Tom? You were like really just thinking, like, that at work, thinking, "I'm just fucking taking it back to Switzerland."
Yeah, but there's obviously that was a busy time. Look, April was a very busy.
It
month
was a
for-
very busy time.
We had a good
lot.
reason to come back. To be
Yeah,
fair,
I mean-
if it wasn't for you, I don't think I would have got on that plane. I'll be honest. I would have stayed there.
Yeah.
Found
No,
a job.
I think that is a common denominator for the
Eloped
two of
to
us.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think the difference is, I mean, Darren said this, is like, it's almost like a shame we didn't have an extra day, but obviously this time around we couldn't have that extra day just to kind of chill and unwind. And I think that kind of contributed to the blues a little bit, because
Yeah.
I think I knew I had the blues from it because, you know, I came back and then I was back in work for 2 days and then it was my wedding. So it was like, it was all, it was like all steam.
Yeah.
Like, Picvetia came at the right time for me because it kept my nerves for the wedding completely low because I had Picvetia. I was focusing on something different for a while. So I think, especially when I was waiting for the bridesmaids and the bride to get dressed and then rock up, you know, I was in my con blues as well as my nerves of wedding. So it was
very chill. Very chill, considering you were getting married, you know, so
Yeah.
good.
I was focusing on everybody else. Or I was focused on Switzerland.
Always.
I was just like, Switzerland.
Yeah, I
think
mean,
it
when
is.
we came back, it was like I was off work anyway. I had 2 days back in back home, and I was just physically wrecked, but still kind of unpacking the whole feeling, and then going off to Camp Cosplay for a weekend, and it was like at least another week
Yeah,
or
that was
two
just after,
before,
wasn't it?
like physically, I just thought, oh my God, the tiredness. Because again, I think that's one thing another thing we didn't actually sort of mention to people is you be prepared for the tiredness. It is
exhausting.
unreal.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Yeah, because it's
again,
not
I think-
just physically exhausting.
It's mentally exhausting
draining
too.
as well because of the
Yeah.
amount of thought and creativity that you're having to put into each shoot. You know, it is literally like doing 8, 10, 12 out of con project shoots in one weekend.
Some
Yeah.
4 or 5
You know,
a day.
with completely different fandoms, different characters, different locations, and it takes it out of you, definitely.
Wasn't it?
But I think
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Tom.
the other thing I think I was going to say also is that it was just like mentally for me unpacking the whole sort of event, just like the whole experience of it, actually traveling there, being part of something that I never thought I would be or would ever have achieved. So I sort of feel incredibly privileged, and I should feel proud of myself. I actually did this. And it was just the thought. The other thing that came to mind was also the sheer generosity of all the cosplayers. Everybody I met was lovely, and they were so generous. You know, when you see all the gifts you get at the end of it, you think, my God, you know, I don't get this sort of feeling of like love or
I have one on my
appreciation
desk.
anywhere else.
That I think Darren and Tom have one as well. Is that one of these from Jun? Is it this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah,
I've gained a few over there, and they're
Yeah.
right here on the side of my desk.
Like I've got a couple here as well, and like this was just
Yeah,
key
I've got one
ring.
too.
Just absolutely another one I got from another cosplayer, just and then like little chocolate, sweets from like their local region, and
Yeah.
like not everybody does them. It's not a cheap thing for people to do.
It's also not a
You know,
compulsory thing to do either. It's just something that people would like to do.
all these things cost time and money to put together. All these little gift bags, and I don't expect anything from any one of these events. Just having the time to meet them and shoot with them is enough. But yeah, it is just the sheer level of appreciation that you feel from these people that you're working with, that it is kind of like next level, really.
I think what I was about to say, like a second ago, was along the line of the mental drain of this. I'm pretty sure that each and every one of you had a very long day.
We had the same long day together, didn't we? I think because we had the fire shoots on the Saturday, and there was a bit of a delay. I mean, I think mine was quite late anyway, but you make the most for the fire because you want to do it in the dark. But I think it was over an hour delayed at one point. I think I got back to my room about midnight.
Yeah, remember you
but
saying
I started at 8 that morning, so that was a long day.
Yeah,
it was from horses in the morning to fire at night, so it was a lot of mental creativity.
Our first day was our longest. We started at 9 and we finished at 10:30 at night.
I think we got back to our accommodation about 11:30. I think it was
11:30. Yeah.
Yeah, because
so we did late Friday as well, didn't we? We were in the arcade till about midnight on the Friday.
I know, and then I was getting up at 5 a.m. to go to a waterfall to do a shoot with one of the girls from the Monster Hunter group, because she'd messaged me afterwards because she had to leave early for another shoot, and said, "Look, I really want to shoot with you again, but most of them I'm fully booked, but I've only got my break available, or I can start earlier if you want." And I'm like, "What about your assistant?" "Oh, he'll just have to come." Okay, we're coming up. Like, we're getting up at, we've just been out most of the day, 7 hours. So we're getting home around midnight, up at 5 a.m. to drive 2 hours ish or something to get to a waterfall to do a shoot. And then we were there till like on 10, maybe 11 o'clock at night in the quarry.
Yeah.
That long day. Long day, mentally exhausting.
My long days.
Yeah.
Most days I started at, between 9 and 10 or 8 on one of the mornings and ended, midnight on the Friday. The fire shoot was really late as well. I think, midnight I got back after that, and that was starting at 8 a.m. that day. And then Sunday I tried to have the chill day, but that's still like a 7-8 hour day.
Yeah, we did have a chill day on the Sunday. Like Friday was 4 shoots, but then we had the 4-hour gap in the middle where we went trekking down to the Roman Bridge. So even that, we weren't really chilling. We were like hiking. We were shooting till 10:30 at night. Saturday we did 3 shoots. We were lucky enough to finish it at like 4:30 that day, and we didn't start till 10, so we were sort of chilling. Then Sunday we picked up the extra shoot on the Sunday morning, so we were like shooting at 8:30 and finished shooting at like 5:30.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday I think for me was
long days.
A similar thing. It was like early morning shoot at the stables. Then it was up to Sebio Village to do a shoot there. I think then we were back into a Locarno for a shoot in the park. And then I made a spectacular mistake. But this is actually another little nugget of advice for anyone who gets accepted, is when you do your shoot plan, obviously, Darren, you mentioned when you did your planner and you worked out like all the cosplayer, the location and the day, the time slots, but also put in the Google Maps reference for the location, because my last shoot was going to be, supposed to be a villa near College Papio, and I somehow got it in my head it was in Bellinzona. So I had driven out 30 minutes. Yeah. I drove out about an hour or so, a 30+ minute drive there, got to Bellinzona, and then I'm getting messages off the cosplay saying, "Whereabouts are you?" I said, "Well, I'm in Bellinzona," because, it's not here. Like, where is it? I'm like, like, "Do you want to stop the shoot?" I'm like, no, it's my fault. I'm coming back to you. Let's get, they gave me the coordinates of where they were stopping at their car park. I said, "Just hang about. I will get there." So it's about another 30-minute drive back. So, into like what was like literally 10 minutes away from where our apartment was, which is like, damn it. And of course, the light's starting to fade, and I'm trying to make it look like daylight still. So I'm like putting on a bit of a CCO gel to warm it up a little bit, turn up the ISO, and then it's getting dark quicker and quicker. Bit more, keep it going. And it was like 8:30 when we finished. We weren't the only ones, because I saw somebody I'd shot with at the fire shoot also shooting in that area till about the same time. And then we just felt a few spots of rain, and we were like, right, this is it. We're calling it now. We're all done. And then, of course, I would love to have gone out and shot on the Monday if the opportunity presented itself. It didn't happen because those few droplets turned into an absolute downpour on Monday.
Big storm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So I guess really the question is, would you do it again?
Oh, don't even need to hesitate. No
I signed up
hesitation.
for Focus. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Hell yes.
I mean, I'll be honest. Originally I had said that I'm not going to apply for Picvetia next year. I'm going to do a couple of others, not because I don't like it, because I want to like move things around and mix it up a bit. And then I remembered that it was going to move regions again, and I got chatting to Julie, one of the organizers, on the Sunday because she was my last shoot of the day, and we were walking back down, and she was telling me all about the region. And at that point, I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to apply next year then. Because it's in if Picvetia was in the same region every year, then I might have skipped it next year just to have an opportunity to do another event, because you can't do them all. It takes a lot of annual leave from work. It takes money. It takes a lot of effort and energy, both mental
Doing
and
these
physical.
two back to back was a lot. It was worth every second, but it's a lot.
But I'm definitely going to apply for next year because some of the locations that they've been sharing for the German region just look absolutely stunning again. And I really do like how they move around the three regions, because it just allows
because it showcases the country as well. There's different regions.
Absolutely.
And where the language changes and the cultural influences change as well. So that was like the weirdest thing. Is I was like, we're in like Ticino area, and I'm thinking I'm in Switzerland, but I'm in Italy.
Yeah,
but I'm not in Italy.
Yeah.
It takes
the weirdest thing was
that
there was one cosplayer I shot with. She was a French cosplayer. She was an Italian cosplayer. She was living in France, and she'd come over to here, and her mum had come over to assist. And I'm pretty sure that she just lives she was an Italian. She just probably drove the border. And I'm like, I really wanted to ask her, and I should actually just say, did it feel like coming home when you're in this region? Because it's like you're not quite in Italy, but it's so close you can't tell.
When I did Volta for the first time, I absolutely fell in love with the region of Italy.
Yeah.
This part of Switzerland felt very, very much like that. In some senses, to the point where it almost felt a little bit familiar in parts, which was strange. But yeah, it's just, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And I know it's going to be like probably 2-3 years now before they're back in that region. Hopefully I'm still shooting by then. I'd definitely love to go to another Picvetia in that region, but I definitely want to go back to Picvetia next year in the German region, because it's the one that I haven't done. So now that we're all back and we've got editing to do,
some of us,
those of us haven't started,
we've kind of like touched a little bit on the process, and I think it's worthwhile talking about that, because it can be very, very different to working with people in the UK. So like, for anyone that hasn't done these events or these type of events before, it's very much the norm that you would kind of get home, you would sort through your images, and you would somehow send all of the images to the cosplayers you've shot with for them to look through and choose which images that they would like. I mean, it's the norm for some people in the UK, but generally speaking, across the board, it's not so much. And I find with these type of events as well, even when you're doing the editing, there can be a lot more back and forth with extra work or requirements that the cosplayer might like. And it's always done very respectful very professional. Again, it's almost like a creative team process. I've started some of my editing already, even though I've got stuff from last year still to do. And I've edited a few shots. I know you have as well, haven't you, James?
Yeah,
You got
I tried to get.
You got many shots done.
I tried to get, because I felt guilty, and I think there's an aspect of that I did 2 of these events back to back. I tried to get something out to everybody, which I did fail. With. I missed a few people, which they're going to be ready to go this weekend. But I wanted to get a handful, 1, 2, 3 images back to everybody I worked with at Picvetia. So I didn't feel extra guilty that I went straight to another event. So yeah, I have got some. So it's interesting you say the sharing stuff. That's something I don't tend to do, but I have found that more people at these events ask you to do that or request that, the sharing of the whole library and picking what they want out of it rather than you give a selection back.
Yeah. And also as well, I mean, every photographer is different, but personally, for these type of events, like I get cosplayers saying to me, how many can I choose? And I just say to them, I don't put a limit on them. You know, you choose whichever images you feel are the best that you would like to see me edit. And I think as we were chatting before this, as you said as well, Michael, it's like, choose the images that you would want to post or particularly want to post first. And I'll gladly do them first. And if there's any requirements, editing instructions, I upload them all to my website, which I use Pixieset for my website. And I upload a gallery to there. That then gives them the opportunity to favorite each of the images they want, which then opens up a section for them to put comments. So they can then put any editing guidelines. And I will say for Picvetia, I would say 95% of the people I shot with chose images within 24, 48 hours of me sending them. Like they were super keen. Like some I was sending them. And I think I was sending the images to most people like within a few days of being back, or certainly within like getting back from Tom's wedding. Some people, like by the time I'd sent the link to them and sent a link to someone else, they were coming back saying, brilliant, I've just looked, I've selected mine. I was like, wow. But also every single person said, I've selected mine. There is no rush in you getting them to me. Every single person. Because again, I think it's that quality over quantity approach that people want.
I know these events have a time limit to deliver photos, but yeah, I've never been asked for these images.
No. And again, the time limit is generally a guide. They just encourage you to keep communications up. And as long as you communicate with that cosplayer and that cosplayer is happy, if you're going to go over the time limit, and then by and large, it's not a problem. So did you say, have you edited any of yours yet, Michael, or are you still on your sort of sorting process?
No, I mean, I've got through the sorting process and the links have all gone out. I've already had quite a few notification emails and the Pixieset gallery saying that selections have been made. So I'm at that point where I'm going to start looking at them and figuring out what to do, because my sort of editing process is, I suppose it's kind of adaptive, organic. I don't have really a set process exactly. I kind of go by look and feel. And sometimes that takes influences of other people's styles and pictures that I see, or I think, I've seen an effect I really like. How would I do that? Because I mean, I'm amazed always how some people are putting out work within a couple of weeks, and they've already got the first image and it looks absolutely stunning. And I'm thinking, I'm not even at that point yet. I sometimes don't even look at the images too much detail. Just a quick color, knock out all the ones where people are blinking, eyes shut, things that just don't work. But in terms of like, what am I going to do with it? I don't really know.
Yeah. No. So for me, I'm often one of them people that you see putting images out really quickly. And it's not all of the images. It's normally sort of like, if I've got some favorite shoots from that weekend or some favorite cosplays, quite often I will decide on how I want them to look while I'm shooting. So sometimes I want to get back and get a base down, even if it's not the final edit. it'll be a base of how I want it to look. But quite often I'll edit 1 or 2 images from my favorite shoots, sometimes within a couple of days. And it is purely so that I can get a solid base down for the rest of the set, because I know in my head at that point, that's how I want it to look. And I know if I don't act on it then that creative thought process will go, and I'll have to start it all over again, and I might end up with a different process. But yeah, it's interesting how different people work.
Okay, so all right, let's start with the sharing process. Have I hit the wrong button? Come on. And James is up first.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot to this.
Yeah, so talk us through like the cosplayer, the process of organizing the shoot, how it came about, and then talk us through the shoot and the edit itself.
Yeah, so this is Kiri, fantastic cosplayer. They do a lot of Critical Role. So is anyone familiar with Critical Role? It's a Dungeons & Dragons real live play, I think they call it, which has turned to a TV series, which is this. It's this global media thing that's just humongous. They do a lot of cosplays from that, and I like D&D. I'm quite new to as a critter, as they call us. But this is Beauregard Lionette. It's a character that is a monk who is basically one of their catchphrases. Their sleeves are bullshit. So if you can gather what kind of person they're like from that. Anyway, so the goal I wanted with this was there's like a scene in the campaign, which obviously is it's now a TV show, but the majority of it is described. Like Dungeons & Dragons, it's a theatre of the mind thing. So Beauregard, the character here, meditating at Waterfall. And it was that's the simple idea I wanted. And we both had this same vision, and that is the photo we came to. What you can't see is the treacherous trek, which on the post, the cosplayer posted a little BTS of how my assistant.
Yeah, I think I saw it actually, because I shot with her as well, but on the Friday as Camilla from.
Those photos are incredible.
Yeah, she's fantastic to work with. Really chatty on the DMs as well. We were like chatting on and off for weeks, if not months, before the event. Such a great cosplayer to work with, and like her partner, who was with her as an assistant, is also
incredible
like
assistant. Yeah,
incredible, like really supportive, really helpful. Yeah, just spectacular. So that's the edit. What did you do to that image in the edit?
Not a lot. I really just brightened it up. I wanted it to be as natural or as the vision I had was just like kind of untouched. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but how I see it in my head.
It looks very natural, but it also looks very natural, but clean and refined. Like not over the top fake. The colours still look as I would expect.
I think I boosted the colour the tiniest little bit just to try and bring the greens and the blues.
Yeah.
Beauregard, the character, is part of a Cobalt Soul. The group is blue. The blue is very important. I didn't want to make any adjustments to the blue. I mean, the cosplay is exactly how I see the character, and now how there's an animated show of it is how the character is portrayed. But that is the vision of the character I had before the animated show was a thing. So, and I mean, it literally lifted the colors up, a bit more brightness, because I didn't want to kill my assistant by making them get too close in an active waterfall. And I mean, this waterfall, I'm looking at her because she's behind me. This waterfall was moving. It wasn't just a gentle stream. It was quite violent. And I feel like if you had slipped in it, there was a good chance you were gone. And I was quite far back on a different sort of level of this waterfall. That was quite a sheer drop down there. And they just before I said, here's an idea I have, here's an idea that we'd spoke about, is it okay to? And before I'd even really finished the sentence, they're climbing over there already, using the stick, the bow staff, to get over there effectively, which was kind of like how the character would anyway. So the vision I had for this was kind of shot in camera, kind of as is, didn't really need anything. And this was the first image. It was one of the last images I took of the event, and it was the first image I posted. I sent it to the cosplayer, and they said, and it was while I was at we were at Tom's wedding, and the signal was not the best in the barn there, the venue, and the message was, "I'm going to post this now. Can I post this now?" And then, but by the time it had refreshed, and my response, "Of course you can," it had already been posted. So they,
Nice.
seeing somebody so excited to share that vision
Yeah.
of this was just, I couldn't have asked anything more. And this was, one of my favorite.
So let's have a look at the unedited version. Wow. Yeah, just like
I didn't need a lot. I didn't want
very
to do a lot,
subtle.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the lighting is on point. The composition, the crop, the exposure level, just nailed it.
Thank you.
Like that a lot.
Yeah. I bet that was the easiest edit you've had to do.
Really, what? Because the whole vision for that shoot was just to kind of keep it natural, because it's not like a dream sequence, but it's a meditations. So I didn't need real flashy lights or anything like that, which is a bit different because I shoot quite dark. So I wanted to be a bit lighter. So yeah, I kept it a little dark and then just tweaked the light, bit of exposure. That's it, really. All I did. I was quite happy with that.
So let's go.
Right, so look at the next one.
So this is they've just changed their Instagram name a couple of days ago. So I'm sorry if it's wrong, but it's Kurochu.
Yeah, I remember Kurochu from a Cos Expo about 5 years ago, I think.
Wow.
I think me and Darren both shot with them.
Yeah, they just changed their handle. So yeah, I hope
yeah,
that's
it was
possibly,
yes.
She was doing a 2B from Near Automata.
Yes. Crikey, is that the same cosplayer?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, she has really come on strength from strength.
Wow, I remember that. Yeah. Nice. That's stunning, mate.
Yeah, I was so again. This is I wasn't sure whether to share this one or one that was quite a way step back, so I could really show off the garden. But I really liked the vibe I was going. As like a secret garden kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like again, a bit more of my darker style coming through in what was a blisteringly sunny day.
The thing is, as well though, is whilst it's a sort of closer in portrait, it's still really capturing the vibe of the location.
Yeah, the colors. I tried to get shoot through the colors.
Yeah,
I literally just called the shadows, warmed the highlights, and that's pretty much it.
That's beautiful.
I tried to go into this one not editing too much, like the whole event, to try and keep my backlog down.
Nice.
But yeah, I literally just kind of cooled the shadows on this one, and it kind of, again, I don't think it really needed a lot. It was a really sunny day that did cool out while we were at the shoot. It did go from quite sunny to quite overcast while this shoot was going on. So I was quite lucky in there because I wasn't super, it's again, a character I'm not super familiar with. I've seen the character, but getting the chance to shoot in a beautiful botanical garden with a character with, is it 9? Sorry if it's 9 or 7 tails. I don't know the character that well, but this huge plume of tails.
Ari from League of Legends.
Yeah. So I know of the character. I didn't know a lot of League of Legends lore. But yeah.
Stunning, mate. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And then we'll go
again.
to
I love the subtle edit. Let's have a look at the raw, or should I say the unedited.
Yeah.
Wow, again, she's just
away.
But the highlight was really funny.
But not still, there is still some detail in the very bright whites of the fur on the back. So you've still got good control of the exposure there, even considering the conditions of this bright sunlight on the day.
It was quite sunny, yeah.
Stunning, mate. Absolutely.
Thank you. It was a little out of my comfort zone shooting a character that's so bright, and so I'm usually quite dark. And I mean, I feel like that's a symptom of where we live as well. Like the UK is always quite dark.
This is it.
We were fresh off the bunker. I think at this point we were like a month out of the bunker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was pure dark. To go from that to wow, this is really funny. I'm glad I packed some ND filters.
That kind of resonates with me because I think, I've had some people comment, that, your style doesn't quite match what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something brighter or more area. And I'm thinking, you know what? Actually, you're not wrong. A lot of my work is leaning to the dark side of things.
We actually,
and
me and
I
Tom
want
had
to sort
that.
of push it the other way now.
Me and Tom had that from a cosplayer we reached out to for this year's Focus, and she came back to us and she was like, thanks for reaching out. I really love your work. She was very, very complimentary about the style of mine and Tom's work, but that that her general style that she goes for is normally a little bit more sort of bright and colourful, and it wasn't a case of our styles won't align. It was more, do you think they do? But then in the next message, she was like, but actually, there's a cosplay that I've been thinking of doing for a while that is very much out of my comfort zone, but it would definitely suit your style. So if I considered doing that, would you want to shoot it? And again, it was very much like, for this, our styles don't align, maybe, but I'd actually be willing to bring something to the table so we could meet halfway. And again, that's something that I'm just not used to.
I think from her point of view, it was like she was very intrigued and like trying to mix styles. I think for what we were doing for Focus, I think for Focus, she's very much like, if this wasn't Focus, then 100%. And I think we could do something pretty cool. But I think she had her vision of what she's looking for it, which is great.
I like that. I like that people are coming back and saying, I love your work, but for what I'm doing or for where my style is right now, our styles don't quite align. Because that says to me that they are wanting to work with photographers where their styles align, or they think they can. They're not just looking for a photo shoot. They're looking for the best that they can get for the cosplay and the character that they are portraying. And I really like that. And I'd rather have the honesty than someone just go, yeah, let's shoot.
Yeah, it's good honest feedback, and I think that's valuable.
Absolutely.
It definitely got even me thinking about it, going, as much as I took on board what she said, and I was just like, actually, that's not bad, chat. Like, to try and try and become get that bit airy, lighter with a bit of pastel style.
I set myself as a bit of a goal, really, to try and do that over the next couple of events.
I mix it up a little bit.
I have actually done a little bit of natural light shooting while I was at Picvetia, and that was before the flash fell out of the bracket. It was just literally, we were side of the building, a side of this stone building, and there was a lovely set of steps going up, amazing leading lines leading up to it. The cosplayer was stood there part way, and it was a Trish Marigold in the sort of full outfit, and she was just stood there, and I thought, anyway, just take a step further back up, because I could see the sunlight beating through the trees and palms and that, and just catch the hairs and natural hair light. And, I've got BTS of that where I'm shooting that, and I really want to post it with that. There's something wrong with this photo. And people go, what's that? You don't see a flash going off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that...
Sorry,
that's one of the things that I've said I want to do differently at some of these next European photocons, is take a large reflector and shoot some natural light. Because there is...
Yeah,
because
it was really good.
There is so much bright sunlight at some of these events that you can really use that to your advantage that we often don't get here. So, right, let's look at the next lot of images.
So, let's go screen share.
Wow.
Yeah, they're incredible.
Right, so this was Sunny, sunny.cos. Now, this was my second shoot of the weekend with Sunny. We'd shot on the Friday night as a fire shoot, which actually served as a really great icebreaker. Because by this point, we'd already shot the night before on the Friday. This was the first shoot the Saturday. And then obviously she rocks up. We chatted about this cosplay. It was a Nia 2B bride shoot, which is something I've wanted to shoot for a while. And she said openly when she arrived, she was like, I've had to make some alterations because it was just there was too little of it and it was too see-through to not, she said, I've had to adapt it and put some additional underwear on. I was like, yeah, it's fine. We'll make it work. And we're like walking up to this old mill with hikers and dog walkers walking past thinking, what the heck's going on here? And Sunny is just a breath of fresh air.
Energy.
I think you just
full
next
the creative
level
mind.
energy. But yeah,
Great
a fun and creative energy. This was my first shoot of the Saturday morning. I'd had a long day and a very late night on the Friday. So I was feeling a little bit like...
He was a very grouchy person.
But the energy that Sunny and her assistant brought to this shoot was just next level. I mean, I think I posted some BTS to this already. I've got some more to post. And like, her assistant's just like climbing up on like some stone rocks, just standing on the top, just looking. And then I think at one point, Sunny also climbed up there, and it just...
She did, yeah.
The energy from this cosplayer is fantastic. So this was an old watermill up on the edge of a river, and we'd already kind of planned this shoot and this cosplay. I've done some color grading to this. It was shot with a single AD300 flash, held by my wonderful assistant. It was also shot using a 1/8 black mist diffusion filter with variable ND. Because obviously, again, it was a Saturday morning. It was quite bright. But I wanted that sort of... This was my first time at this event using a black mist filter. And it's something I've been wanting to try for a while. I'd been doing it a little bit in post-production. But I wanted to try it sort of on camera to see whether it would suit the style that I wanted to move towards. So I've still kind of kept some of the darker tones in this, but also warmed it up a little bit to match the character in the scene. And just tried to get a little bit of a glow, really. So if we take a look at the unedited shot, you'll see the difference. So again, not a huge difference. I've kept the same crop. Just warmed it up, added some contrast, a little bit of a color grade. But by and large, the exposure and the lighting is pretty much where I wanted it to be. And on to the next one.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's the one I was on about. When I saw that, I was just like, damn, I should have turned around the opposite way.
I showed this to somebody when I got back, a friend of mine that isn't into photography. And their first comment was, is that AI?
Wow. Okay. I mean...
But not in a negative way. Just wow.
And
I was like, well, what do you mean? They were like, it looks like something out of a game screenshot.
It is, yeah. They got that trend at the moment with the loading
menu. Screens.
You could put that to the left-hand side, and it would fit so well.
Yeah. So this is I can't even pronounce the cosplayer's handle. You shot there as well, didn't you, Michael?
I did, yes.
Any idea how to pronounce the name?
I think it's like Cillianese, but I could be wrong.
Something like that. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So apologies if we've just murdered that. But we'll put all the links when we post this out.
No, she was lovely to work with.
Absolutely fantastic cosplayer. So she had 2 assistants with her. We trekked down to the waterfall that we planned to go to. And because of the incredibly dry weather, the waterfall was a little bit more sort of lackluster than we originally thought it might be. And to get some great shots with the waterfall was a little bit treacherous to get to. And as you can see with the shoes, she's kind of wearing heels under that to get the height and the right posture. So we did a few shoots at the waterfall, but whilst the cosplayer was finishing getting ready, myself and Tom wandered round, kind of followed the path of the stream that preceded the waterfall. And I'd already seen on the info on the Picvetia Discord for this location that went round under a bridge, which we followed, and we followed the stream down, and it came down to this river, which was one of the main rivers. And in the back, you've got the kind of trees, you've got the snow-topped mountains, you've got the rocks, and it just screamed the character, which was Gormagala from Monster Hunter Wilds. I didn't really know the character that much when I originally started planning this shoot, but I checked out the cosplayers' builds on her profile, and I was really, really just in awe of her armor builds.
Yeah,
and we got chatting, and I was really keen to shoot this. And again, I think she was quite new to. I think this was her first Picvetia, possibly even her first photocon.
First photocon as well, yeah.
Which absolutely amazes me because the quality of her builds is just out of this world. She's great to work with. She was just happy to do like whatever. And yeah, we got this shot. I have done a bit of work on this one. I've added some extra glowing for the sun in the general direction that the main sunlight was coming from. If we take a look at the raw or the unedited. So
yeah,
again, you can still see the mountains are there, the stream there, the base image is there, the lighting is pretty much how I wanted. Pretty much all I've done to this is tweak the levels of fraction. But I've then added a color grade, warmed it up slightly, and then added some glow and some flare from some additional sun, which was coming from over the top of the right-hand side of the trees. On the day we shot this, it was a little bit more hazy. So it was sunny, but not as bright, stark sunlight as I might have liked. But overall, I'm really happy. Again, I used a black mist diffusion filter. And I'll be honest, the focus point on this one was slightly off. And I will say that with the black mist diffusion filter, it does generally soften the images. And like previously, I've always been used to really chasing that, pin sharp, pixel peeping clarity from the main subject. But more recently, when I've started leaning more into the cinematic shots, I realize that you don't always need that. The amount of times you'll be watching a movie and you'll see a scene that really captures you, and you look at it, and it's actually in a lot of areas isn't even that sharp, but it's the shot as a whole, So again, it proves that you don't always have to have a pin sharp image. You might not even have like the best quality lens. I mean, this was shot with the Sigma 50mm 1.4, which is a top quality lens, but with the black mist diffusion filter on, it does add a little bit of softness, and the focus isn't always quite as sharp as you would perhaps expect without it. But yeah, still a shot that I really love, and it'll probably be. I'm going to chat with the cosplayer this week and maybe get this one up either sometime over the bank holiday or early next week.
Well, that image is stunning. It really encapsulates the event for me because it has everything about that event that I loved. You've got the mountains. You've got mountains that are covered in snow. You've got mountains that are not covered in snow. You've got water. You've got an incredible cosplay. You've got the tree line.
I think that's one of the things I love about this image. It almost captures the soul of the event.
Absolutely, yeah. Stunning.
And it also goes back to something else you told me that, no matter who you work with, if you don't even get to work with the people you want to, everybody there will be good. And this is a great example of it. A brand new entrant to an event at this level. And I had the honor, both of us have had the privilege of working with this person. She is absolutely amazing, as were all the others. I reckon that shoot was my dream shoot when I had the group shoot. And this was just like the icing on the cake the next day. It was
Yeah,
worth
when I
getting
was-
up at 5 a.m. for this.
When I was going through the cosplayer selection for this event, and I came across Lisa's cosplans, and I saw her armor builds, and I was like, wow, I need to check that profile out. And I was looking at the rest of her cosplays, and I was like, instantly, I really, really want to shoot with this cosplayer. And I reached out, sent a message, not expecting to get the opportunity. I was expecting for her to already be fully booked.
Yeah. That was
And
the
she
same
came
here.
back. She was absolutely lovely. Really interested to shoot. We had a great chat. And I was absolutely over the moon to have the opportunity to shoot this. Again, anyone that knows me will know that this is very, very far out of my normal comfort zone. Now, I'm normally sort of like dark, cyberpunk, sci-fi, dystopian. This is like outdoors, bright sunlight, nature. Very like not me.
But it captures the game character perfectly.
It looks.
Yeah.
I don't know what Monster Hunter this Monster Hunter is from. I've played a few of them, but
I think this is Monster Hunter Wilds.
Wilds. It is.
Yeah.
It's one I've last played, and it feels like there's an opening area that has very shallow water, and it screams this image to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, for me, it was just I was looking through the cosplays and thought, Monster Hunter, I'm interested. Quick message, hey, I'd be interested. And I said, there's a group, we've got a group shoot planned. Yeah, sure, I'd be interested in that. Next thing I know, I'm added into an Instagram chat group with her, 2 other cosplayers, and a few other photographers who like arranged it between themselves, just like have a mini group shoot while they were there. So that was my first shoot.
Yeah.
There was a trio group shoot on a Friday afternoon, which was a hell of a way to start an event like that. So
it's a great way
even
to
though
meet people
I
as
didn't
well.
get anything in the morning, it was just such an amazing thing to start with. God, if this is the beginning, I don't even know what the end's going to feel like.
And if you check out, anyone that's watching this, if you check out Lisa's cosplay Insta profile as well, we'll put all the links up to all the cosplayers in these shoots. She's such a versatile cosplayer. There's a really broad range to everything she does. So yeah, just check it out. Let's go into the last shot.
I love that.
Oh,
So
nice.
this is Jun, who we've already spoken about. So this was a shoot on the Sunday morning that wasn't even originally planned. Planned this shoot on like the Friday night before we were due to shoot our other shoot on the Sunday morning. I asked if she'd have any space left because originally I think I'd got something planned for the Sunday morning that then later cancelled. And I'd seen Jun's reels as she was putting this cosplay together. And it's based on an illustration from a Japanese illustrator called Sakaizo. And this is an illustration called Mousse d'Orange. And it's almost kind of like Moulin Rouge-esque in style, I would say. And I'm starting to see quite a few cosplays from this illustrator. And it's one that I'd seen her working on. She's completely made all of that by hand. She buys the fabric, she makes it from scratch. And she said to me on the Friday night, yes, I'm available on the Sunday morning. I'm free before 10. And I was like, okay, yeah, if you're up for it, let's do an early morning shoot. And she said, I'll just need to check with my assistant, which for this event was her mum, because she's literally like half an hour up the road from this area. And when we met on the Saturday morning to shoot our other set, she said, we'll all go for shooting on Sunday. And I said to her, look, I only know the illustrations that I've seen online from this character. Do you have any locations in mind? She mentioned a couple of places, and this was one of them, which was the Bellinzona City Hall. I'd already shot here on the Friday with Kiori,
Was that the
and
same location?
Yeah.
The location was when I shot there on the Friday, it was extremely busy. And there were some areas I didn't get a chance to use because it was just too busy. So I said to John, yeah, I'd really like to shoot there, especially since we're shooting in the morning. On the Sunday, hopefully it'll be quieter. So let's go for that. And yeah, we rocked up at like 8 o'clock, 8:15 in the morning. There wasn't many people there at all, so it gave us the opportunity. We had a brief chat before, and I said, look, I don't really know the style or the character that well. And she explained to me that because it's an illustration, there isn't really any set things to stick to with this character. So she was like, we've pretty much got free reign to do what we want with this character. And so we did. We had to play around with a few different ideas.
I think with this one, I came up with the idea. It kind of very much reminded me of like the Musketeers. That whole genre of like the Musketeers.
Yeah.
So we kind
like
of
almost a cross between Moulin Rouge, Three Musketeers, that kind of style. Yeah. And so I wanted to keep the images quite warm and in fitting with the colours of the venue. And also a lot of the colours of the cosplay also fit in very, very well with the venue also. Which is great, but also the key here for me was I needed to somehow light it and edit it in such a way that I can still separate the subject from the surroundings, but also still use the surroundings to work with the shot. John is almost a pro at what she does. I mean, you've shot with our thing at Focus, didn't you, James?
Did, yeah.
And
Absolutely
you can literally work with her without giving direction. She sees a flash, she'll change pose. She sees another flash, she'll change pose. It is just that seamless.
She's just fluid.
Yeah, and she absolutely embodies the character that she's portraying. And I think she rocked up in the morning. We had a chat, and she literally said, like, you're the first person to see this cosplay finished, which for me was a massive honor because I've seen how much work had gone into it, which kind of also made me feel a little bit under pressure as well because I really wanted to do it justice.
Yeah.
I've since sent her some shots and she's absolutely over the moon, which is always nice to hear. So here again was shot with a single AD300 with Tom using all the strength in his arms to hold it up.
I was
at a
going to say, he
reasonable
must be
height
quite high up. Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm actually behind that pillar, and I'm literally holding this light.
Yeah, the flash he used is held behind the pillar from a slightly elevated angle. And again, if we look at the raw, the main thing here is I've color graded to warm it up slightly, but also I've used a slight gradient on the bottom right corner to darken it slightly to help push the focus up towards the subject. I've edited out the person that's behind the trees that was from another cosplay shoot down in the bottom right corner as well. And generally just put a little bit of a vignette, added some contrast, a bit of a color grade, just again to try and boost the focus really on the cosplayer. But yeah, I really can't rate these people highly enough, not just these three cosplayers, but every single person I worked with at this event for their A game. As a photographer, it really makes you bring your A game as well. I'm sure you guys will say the same, that it really inspires you to push beyond your boundaries. Even if you go into a shoot and you're not feeling your best that day, it really pushes you to bring your A game and challenge yourself. that's some shots from the event. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of what you get done as well, Michael, at some point.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to seeing you post them in the Discord group. Because I'm excited to see, particularly because I know you shot with like at least one cosplayer that I shot with in a different cosplay in a different location.
Yeah, because that's one of the funny things about this event is how we sort of both crossed over slightly with similar cosplayers. That, you know, me and James have both shot the same cosplayer in a bowling alley.
Yeah, 3 times bowling alley, fire shoot, and then we bumped into each other at one of the castles. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, and you know, it'd be interesting to see how, you know, each of our works come out, and it also made me wonder. Like, the cosplayers are obviously looking at one of us and then going, "Oh, but there's this guy as well, and there's someone else." And it's like, wow, you know, they are maybe seeing something going on here. They're looking at everyone else thinking, "Oh, they're busy, they're full." But hey, this is an interesting look I could go with.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I think what's also quite good in respect for these events as well, it's always exciting to see what. Obviously, when we're in the same sort of Discord and the same community within the UK, it's so cool to see like what James has done, what Michael's done, what Darren's done, and I really look forward to kind of like seeing what's going on between all of you from this event. I mean, because obviously we have that connection because we know each other. We are from the UK. We had that this community here. So when I remember watching, I was looking through social media on one of the evenings. I can't remember which one it was. I was definitely on yours, Michael. It was it was definitely Monster Hunter because it's the big ass sword, and I was just like, "Oh, he's in his element here."
Yeah, I think we were looking through stories. I think, Tom, and we saw either the cosplayer shared some story, or I think it was you. I think it was you shared it yourself, actually, Michael. Some BTS of like, just it looked incredible, and you looked probably the happiest I've seen. Like you say, it was a bit of a trek up there, and it was a bit treacherous, but you looked like you were truly in your happy place.
It was like a kid.
It really was. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, that was the dream shoot for me, to get something that I've wanted to do, because I don't see a lot of that in the UK. You know, we have a lot of cosplayers who are like doing a lot of the Marvel, DC, Star Wars stuff, some game stuff, but then there's not really a lot that take it as far as this level.
It's getting that into MCM as well. I don't think they'd allow it.
Exactly.
Some of these armies, they wouldn't allow.
No.
Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed in. And you wouldn't be able to show it off at its best anyway. You know, it's a great, here's an amazing cosplay I saw at MCM. But just imagine when you've shot it in that location, how much more amazing is that going to look when it looks like it's come from the game?
Yeah. So it might be a bit unfair to ask this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a favorite shoot or a favorite set from the weekend for whatever reason? It might be because it was a dream fandom to shoot, or something happened and made it your favorite. A favorite memorable shoot from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, mine was that Beauregard photo I shared. I knew exactly the shot I wanted. The location, it worked. It was both of our last shoots of the weekend, so it was very chill. I didn't take many shots, so we got a few different locations within the area. It was
He's
chill.
Really chill to work with, actually.
Oh yeah. And we just had fun, and it was I really had that vision of getting the meditation on the rock by the waterfall. And then when we went around that corner, and I was like, I think this is too dangerous. And then I turned my head, and they're already halfway in.
They're already there.
Before I'd even made my case of, I know it's dangerous, but please, do you mind? And they're already in there before I've asked.
I had a similar situation when I was shooting with Julie on the Sunday at one of the waterfalls at the end of the day. I had some ideas in my mind, and then I was thinking, I'm not going to ask her to go there because it'll be too dangerous. And she'd already seen me looking. And by the time I turned and gone back, she was already halfway there with a partner, getting him to help her over there. And it was just like, that's just next level commitment.
And like, because it was a waterfall as well, we had to translate it like down the line, because like she'd shout,
because there was sometimes so much distance between me and the subject.
Noisy. It's
So
so
noisy.
noisy, the
Yeah.
waterfalls, you don't
Yeah.
expect it. And I'm yelling at
Absolutely.
man, like, I'm sorry, I'm shouting. And it's like, what? Can't hear
So
you.
there's like me, and I'm turning around. Oh, shouting at Darren. It's just like, what's going
Yeah,
on? It's like,
and
Link.
the other thing about when I was shooting with Julie as well, at the end of the day, I was like, "You got any more ideas?" And she knew I'd had my drone out while she was shooting with someone else, and she was like, "Could we do some shoots with the drone?" I'm like, "Yeah." So you got something a little bit different with the drone as well, which was cool. So Michael, I'm guessing I know the answer to this. Do you have a shoot of the weekend?
Yeah, I would say probably the one featured right behind me. You know, it's
Yeah.
definitely one of my favorites. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure who that bald guy there in the middle is, but you know,
That's a
he was
great
happy that
selfie
day.
as well.
I could say that.
Yeah.
You know, he was definitely happy.
Nice.
That was definitely one of my favorite shoots of the weekend. But I mean, I got to do some amazing things. I mean, I managed to do a near automata shoot, you know, both in the quarry and at the bridge crane as well, which was
Who was that
nice.
with? Was it Angie?
that was Angie. Yeah,
I can't wait to see those. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna
Really
be
would have
amazing.
The
loved to
bridge
have
crane
shot
is
that
an
one.
interesting thing because they didn't tell anybody how you
had the
actually
cows,
got
didn't you?
onto that area.
No,
Was the cows
Because you
there
had
that day?
to watch out because there was an electric wire going around it.
Wow.
And plus, the other thing is when we arrived there, we pulled up and then suddenly we saw like 4 or 5 bulls coming up right up to the fence near the car, all mooing in protest at us. And we're like looking around going, there's no easy way to get in here. Then somebody just started lifting up the wire. I'm like, right, okay, light stand underneath, lift this. I'm not touching this to get in, to get the shoot.
nice.
And, you know, I hope they turn out pretty good. I've had a quick look and gone, this is going to
I
be
can't
pretty
wait
interesting.
sure
to
they
see
will.
those.
I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty sure they will. I think for
Angie's
me,
incredible. So I'm sure you both did so well on that shoot.
yeah, definitely. I think for me, my shoot of the weekend is the one that I shared with John because it was completely originally unplanned. And it was a cosplay that was so out there for me. Like, and it's one that's opened my vision up to other cosplays from that illustrator, but also because it was an illustrator's work and not from a TV show or a game. So it wasn't restrictive at all. We could really play around with it and do whatever we wanted, get creative. And it was such great fun to shoot. And we'd shot with Jill on the Saturday morning. She was running slightly late for the shoot. She messaged us ahead. She was only like, 15 minutes late on the Saturday?
15, 20 minutes or something like
15,
that.
20 minutes. It was an hour and a half slot. We still finished 20, 30 minutes before the shoot slot ended because we'd got everything, because we worked so well together on that shoot. And then she gave us like a little gift at the end of the Saturday shoot, both myself and Tom. And then on a Sunday, after we finished the shoot, she nipped off to her mum, came back, and she came back with this little tray of like fresh local pastry things. And she was like, I got you this as like a little extra gift just to say, thank you. It's been amazing to work with you again, especially on the extra shoot, but also to say sorry for being late yesterday. And it's just like, you really didn't need to. It's not a problem. Understand, like, these things happen. I always build in like extra time to my shoots where I can. But again, I think that just goes to show the level of appreciation that everyone has for each other at these events.
Tom, is yours the same from an assistant's perspective?
So
Or did you have...
I've kind of got two favorites from that weekend, and they're very different. So from a creative point of view, it would have to be that Jun shoot on the Sunday morning because, like Darren said, it allowed room for creativity and flair and style to really sort of come through. And the other one that kind of jumps out would be on the Saturday morning first shoot with Sunny and her batshit crazy assistant.
Yep.
Just purely because of the energy that they just brought on that Saturday morning. It was just pure chaos and carnage, but them two are just some of the loveliest people you could meet.
Yeah.
They literally came back to HQ on the Sunday. We had a beer. They came and joined us, and we had a good conversation.
Yeah, because we hung out with them a little bit on the group shoot as well when we were getting ready for the group shoot at
Yeah, they were
HQ on the
right
Sunday.
there, weren't they? Yeah.
And then, like Tom said, we got back to HQ on the Sunday after we finished shooting, and they turned up for like the barbecue in the evening, and like they were like, a chat, and they were like, "Oh, can we hang with you guys?" Like, it's totally fine if not. We totally understand if you'd. And we're like, no, pull up a chair, And we were chatting about them and where they're from. We were chatting about Secret Con, because they really like the idea of that, and I don't know whether they'll actually get there in September, but they were really interested in coming to the prison in September. And I kid you not, if they make it to the prison in September, they will just have so much fun, and so many people will love working with them.
I've already told Darren he's going to have like a waiver for just them two, because
I'll need to like follow around.
I mean, depending on everything, probably.
There's going to be no controlling just one of them, so it's going to be like, I think you're going to have to just make a waiver that she's allowed to climb on everything.
Yeah, but just I agree. Absolute next level energy. They just like bring the creativity, bring the energy. It's like if you could take a Red Bull and turn it into a person, it would just be them. It's just like they're like a human energy drink. It's just like crazy.
I shot with Sunny after. I think it was
same day
directly after you guys, and we did 2 locations, and it's just and even still, like, it was so hot by that point, and we were going around the botanical gardens almost dying, but we were looking for the water. And we were trekking all over that place, and we found it. And then even after, we don't have to worry about the arcade. We spent a lot of time here. It's really hot. Just take some time to brain. They were like, no, let's do it. Let's go. So we went to the arcade and took a few more as well. And it's like,
I mean, there were
the dedication to it.
They were slightly late getting to our shoot. And again, she messaged me saying, look, really sorry, we're running late. Yeah, it's fine. So she rocked up a bit late, and we hadn't got that much time spare at the end of our first shoot because we've got to go and meet Jun. But we still got a lot of stuff done, and like partway through the shoot, she was like, if we've got time at the end of shooting at the mill, I'd really like to get some shots down at the river, but totally fine if we haven't got the time. And we were like, no, let's make sure we have time. So we got what we wanted at the mill, and then we were like, okay, let's go down to the river. And again, just like next level energy. Her assistant's like walking around, like jumping over rocks and like throwing rocks in pools and just like crazy. But she made me want to make the time to shoot that extra bit. Like, not, I don't mean forcefully, I just mean like her energy and enthusiasm just made me want to give that extra bit myself.
Kind of set that energy level up a bit, didn't she, for the day? Like, she really infected you with energy and made you really ready to go for the day. And it was
a perfect first shoot of the day. Because as Tom said, it really kind of like set that level, set that creative thought and energy for the day.
Especially after a late night the night before and just absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, you had your fire shoot on Friday, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. So has this event or this type of event changed the way you look at things and events in general and shoots in general, and perhaps where you want to be and go overall? Like, has it taken the shine off UK events? Has it made you think differently? How has it made you look to the future?
Take the shine off UK events. There's 2 levels of events here, and I don't mean to blow smoke up one of the director's artists because they're in the room, but there are certain events in the UK which I'm now strongly thinking there's no point going to shoot by green trees or whatever, because I don't think I'm giving my full to the cosplayers. I don't feel like I'm able to give them the best work there. Doesn't mean I won't go to these events, but we're all in the room on the Friday night. But yeah, there's certainly, it makes me think about partying with, I think we said this right at the start, £1,000 to stay at MCM. I'd much prefer to say, hey, look, let's go 20 minutes down the road and find a nice alleyway in London and set something up.
Or shoot
for a day there. Yeah. But then there's the other side to UK events, where there is still, how do I say, hope Still a room for creativity that's not just grey walls or dark venue, badly lit halls. So it's not changed. It's not made me go, I'm not doing anything in the UK.
Yeah, I think I'm of a similar train of thought. It's made me want more. And that's not to throw any shade on any of the UK cosplayers at all.
No, of course not. No.
It's more that it's changed the direction that I want to go in my cosplay photography journey. I want more creativity. I want more opportunity to create cinematic images. I want more opportunity to be able to use my lighting techniques that I've spent years developing and use the equipment that I've got. But also I do want more from the cosplayers. I want more creative input. I want it to be more of a collaboration. I don't want to be creating content for content's sake. I want to be purely a quality over quantity approach. And, I do feel that these photocons haven't spoilt UK conventions for me. They've just helped steer me on a different path of my journey, I think. I'm still very thankful for a lot of the mainstream events I've been attending in the UK since like 2017. But now for me, a lot of the mainstream events they're more of a social gathering. They're more of an opportunity to create content for the podcast and not necessarily make creative content or creative cinematic style images. So they've definitely taken the edge off mainstream UK events for me. They've made me want to lean more into photocons, whether that be trying to get more creative at my own events at SecretCon, which is hard because I'm a director, I'm an event organizer first and a photographer second when I'm at those events. So I do find it hard to shoot properly and creatively at SecretCon events, but I'm learning and finding a way to manage that. But I also want to try events like Camp Cosplay and anything else that might come along, as well as now starting to lean more into some of my own projects that I'm perhaps like had on the back burner for years because I've spent time going to MCM, MegaCon, whatever else. So I just want to spend more time being creative, really. And these European events have really inspired me and given me a bit of a kick up the arse to do that. And there are some amazing cosplayers in the UK, and I think some of those now are starting to want more from their cosplays and more from their photos as well, because more and more of them are starting to go to your SecretCon, your Camp Cosplay. They're also starting to arrange little group shoots around the UK, hiring a venue for half a day or a day. And I'm seeing a bit of a shift in some of the UK scene as well, that even from people that perhaps haven't been to these events, but still are seeing what's going on and they just want a little bit more creativity. So yeah, for me, it's definitely shifted my train of thought and the way I work. But I think there's still a reason to go to some of these events, the mainstream ones, just perhaps for me, not at this moment. I've not been well recently, which was one of the reasons I dropped out of MCM this weekend, despite being fortunate enough to have a creator pass. But I just decided to put my health first and just make sure that I'm 100% tip top and not pushing myself too far and out in 30 degrees, not drinking any water all weekend. But yeah, I think, it's definitely shifted my train of thought. Again, it's not to be horrible or nasty to any UK cosplayers or any of the UK events, because there's still a lot of people that I enjoy working with here, and there's still a lot of people that I want to work with here, just in a more creative way, in a more creative setting. Obviously, me and Tom chat about this a lot, and we're trying to arrange a lot through Nexus and our own personal projects as well that we've got coming up through this year. Part of it is just having the time to do it. There's only so many hours in a day, and sometimes I've got all this creative energy buzzing around in my brain after these events, and I just haven't got the time to shoot it sometimes. But yeah, it's definitely changed my train of thought. How about you, Michael?
Well, I mean, I don't really do an awful lot of mainstream events now. I sort of did more when I started out. Started off with like lots of little local events, and then just found it sort of everything got very samey. And then started going to bigger events, and then coming into the same sort of problems that you find that there's no interesting spaces to shoot in. It's more of a social thing than a photography event, and you feel almost like you don't belong there, or they don't want you there.
Yeah,
And
I
they
mean,
go
they
to
are.
great lengths to make it sort of awkward and difficult for you to actually produce good quality work.
They do definitely sort of market themselves more to the masses, don't they? The general
Exactly,
public.
yeah. That's what they're looking at.
And everyone within, who loves cosplay and, well, it's not even cosplay. I wouldn't consider an event like MCM a cosplay event. It is a Comic-Con. It's more of a mainstream Comic-Con convention, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I say, they don't really lend themselves to interesting places to shoot. So, having things like SecretCon gave us the ability to sort of shoot in more interesting locations that actually can fit the cosplays that come brought to these events and give you some sort of creativity. And, we've known about the European events, and finally having been able to experience that, it gives me the idea, it's a way, like, for me, I've actually seen what my potential is.
Yes.
On the back of just some of these shoots. It's like,
and I don't think your potential's peaked yet either, Michael. And honestly, you put out some fantastic work, and I think now you're starting to do these type of events. I think,
I think
you're going to feel more and more inspired. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
because you've got
I
these
often
amazing locations to work with, amazing cosplays, and you're just challenged with like, how am I going to do this? I don't have the worries of, I've only got 5 minutes to shoot this person. I've got maybe an hour and a half to work with a location.
I mean,
and I've got to get my thinking cap on to work out how to make it work.
The last year or so, I mean, I've had this conversation with Tom. Tom will know numerous times, as well as I've had with a couple of other friends, that I question myself regularly on how much longer I can keep doing this. I'm 50 this year in July, and I think, how much longer can I keep doing this? But then I look at yourself and I hear that, I think you said at the start, you've been shooting for what, 50 years?
Yeah, I picked up a camera when I was about 11.
And I've been shooting for like 30 years. Do you mind me asking how old you are, Michael? You don't
60.
have to say if you don't want to. 60. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm 50 this year. You're 60. Really, you're really starting to find your head of steam now, and you're really coming into your own, particularly with these events. So, like, to see that you're 60 and where you are, and how you're still pushing forward and pushing on, is actually quite a bigger an inspiration to me, to be fair. At 50, I regularly question myself and think, how long can I keep doing this?
Yeah, I've done the same thing
in
all
actual
the time.
fact. Yeah. Especially on the mainstream convention scene, when you've got a lot of younger people coming into it, younger photographers, younger cosplayers, and it does make me think sometimes, like, is there still a place for me in this community? But then I shoot at events like Picvetia and Focus and Volta, and actually you've got a good mix of age range at these events, and no one really questions anything. They just crack on. They just want to be creative, and it's quite inspiring. So it does make me think there's hope yet for me to continue doing this. I'd at least like to keep going long enough to do this region of Picvetia again anyway.
Yeah, definitely, because
You've got
is stunning.
8 months, you'll be fine.
You just got to think, David Attenborough's still going, and he's hit 100.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's
he
still
doesn't
going
have to
strong.
do the cosplay photographer yoga, though, does he?
No, that's it. That will be different.
No, but keep up with that. You'll be fine.
Yeah. So
we'll do this again in 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? So
it is just the creativity aspect for the main. I feel, like I said, I feel like I'm not doing people justice as much as I could if we met by a waterfall, or even a city street somewhere. It's not just that.
There is also definitely, I see a shift in some people's mentality in the UK to wanting to be more creative too.
It's not even. It's just the locations that don't allow it for me. Like, it's hard to do that using Excel as an example.
And I think also the same with mainstream conventions in the UK. Like you look at the US, for instance, and you look at Dragon Con, WonderCon, New York Comic Con. They're in convention centers, but you look at the convention centers and some of the areas that you can use to shoot and get photos, and they're like leagues ahead of what we've got here. Even mainstream conventions in Europe, from what I see, that the shooting possibilities are far ahead of what we've got here. I think we are quite limited in convention centers in the UK. You know, the event organizers here can only deal the
They
hand
can only
they're
do what
dealt.
they've got. They've only
Yeah,
They
exactly.
can only do with what they've got.
So I think we do get a bit of a bum deal here with regards to locations, but that's what's available.
I think I said this at the start. Like we don't have castles
No.
and waterfalls that are readily available. They're all privately
And the what
owned and
we
gated
do have
off.
are gated or national trust or like really difficult to get to in the middle of Wales or Scotland or whatever. So
They're not just in our city centres, unfortunately.
no. Looking back at the event, is there anything that you like to say or suggest to the organisers to maybe do differently for Picvetia?
Do it a week. I don't think I can. I don't think I can survive a week. But I would like more time.
I mean, I was there for a week, but 3 days.
You know what?
Is enough.
I would give it a go because I'd probably spread my shoots out more. I'd probably do like 2 a day or 3 a day. Out in that region in Ticino, I could definitely do a week shooting
Any
there.
excuse to stay there for a week. Yeah.
Yeah. But the only problem is if I did a week, I'd probably never come home.
That's fair.
Very true.
We stayed a week in Volta and it was hard.
Yeah.
Didn't want to leave.
Volta, I am genuinely gutted that I had to drop out this year. And it nearly broke me like mentally to have to drop out of that event. But I just, with my back flared up about 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks before the event. And I spoke to my doctor and I spoke to my specialist and they're like, well, you know, you might have to have some treatment. We might have to do this. And there's some extra scans. And I was just like, you know what? I don't like it was one of them situations where I either drop out and suck it up and live to shoot another day, or I push myself so hard to the point where it might break me permanently.
Might have been your last ever
I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it probably broke me more because I'd been to Volta before and I know just how amazing it is. Plus some of the shoots that I'd arranged were just like next level. But that region of Italy is fantastic to the point where we're going there in July for my 50th.
Put it this way, James, you weren't the only one I was messaging that weekend to give morale.
Oh, don't say it like that.
Yeah, honestly, it was. But the other thing is as well is not only was I getting messages from the likes of Tom and a couple of others to say, you know, I know you're going through it right now, but I was also getting messages from cosplayers who were shooting there to say that, like, you know, they actually missed me from being there, which was really, it was a bit of a kicker in one sense, but also it was really nice to hear. The fact that I'd obviously had an impact at some point on working with them. But I was also very surprised actually when I reached out to Volta to say, unfortunately, I've got to cancel. I was very, very concerned about how that might impact my future chances. But they were actually really like super nice about it. Because I know, like, I think the main reason I was so nervous is because I'd seen the impact that the cancellations had had at Picvetia. I think I'd only had like 2 cancellations for Picvetia, but I know generally overall this event had a lot of cancellations. And I think part of it was obviously because of what's going on in the world at the moment. Also because there's a lot more European photo conventions now, and some people maybe realised they'd overstretched themselves financially or they couldn't get the cosplay ready. But again, I think that's another reason to sometimes plan some time into your trip to, if you've got a gap, don't worry about it. Either pick up a cancellation or use the time elsewhere, because I think cancellations are, unfortunately, an inevitable part of this type of event.
Yeah, agreed.
No, not for. I've been really, really lucky. My first ever
Nice.
cancellation was my first focus. I had one. The cosplayer fell unwell.
Yeah.
Day one, so I was a bit shocked. I didn't really know how to do.
Yeah, it happens.
And then I've been incredibly lucky that I've never had, since that, touch wood, I've never had a cancellation.
That's good. Do you have any cancellations, Michael, for Picvetia?
I did have one cancellation. The cosplayer messaged me, DM'd me on Discord and said, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm just letting you know that for personal reasons, I can't attend the event anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm just going out to all of the photographers to let them know that, I'm going to have to cancel the slot.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience of the cancellations. And yes, there were quite a lot of cancellations, obviously because of the circumstances. I believe one guy had most of his Saturday wiped out.
Wow.
Because all the cosplays he booked in are pretty much the ones that are cancelled. So that was like really harsh.
Yeah,
But
it is.
like you say, it's inevitable. It's a thing I think you do kind of need to keep it in your mind that even if you're fully booked, there's always that risk that will happen. And because the way the events run, they can't bring new people in to fill in.
No, exactly.
The slot.
Exactly.
It has this sort of ripple effect across everybody.
If you're like 3 months into the acceptance, and then you try and bring someone in, then it's hard to get anyone up to speed to be able to book slots and find people. It's tough. It's tough. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think, unless anyone else has got anything to say, we've pretty much wrapped up.
Nothing from me.
All good.
Awesome. So we'll, as I said, we'll try and pop in the little interview that we did with the guys at Picvetia during the event, either at the end of this or either in our socials as a separate reel. But I wanted to say thank you to the organisers of Picvetia for putting on this amazing event and allowing us to attend. All the cosplayers we shot with, all the assistants. Yeah, it really was a fantastic, memorable event. I also wanted to thank you guys for being a part of this show. It's been great to hear
It's been a pleasure.
your views and your experiences of your journey and your time at the Picvetia event. So once more, James, if you want to let people know your socials and how they can find you on Insta.
I'm James and I'm JRE Cosplay Photography, the longest name in the world. I picked that when I was like, not going to need a short, snappy name. So that's where you'll find me and my photos.
Excellent. And for yourself, Michael?
I'm at michaelvlack.cosplaytog. That's a right mouthful, and I really wished I had thought of a snappier tagline as well. But unfortunately, that's what I went and got stuck with. So I'm sticking with it for now.
Amazing. Well, as always, we've been Cosplay Togs and All Things Nerdy, iPhoto UK, and Switch _ I think you go by at the minute, Tom.
Yeah.
Until you change it again. We'll see what happens. Both quite snappy names. So thank you all for listening for this horrendously long episode once again. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we will hopefully see you all again soon.
And one last thing as well, the next sort of episode I think we've got it lined up is to have a chat with the organisers over at Focus Cosplay ready for September's event. So we'll be having another one with the organisers. We're
almost a European podcast now, aren't we?
I was going to say, we're all there as well.
Yeah.
And that was my next pointer as well. So we will be, the four of us will be there, and this time I will be shooting.
Record number, I think, of UK Togs at Focus this year.
Yeah, you got Declan as well.
Have like a 10-person podcast, yeah.
Probably.
I think there's like six or seven at least UK photographers at Focus this year, so it's going to be good.
So it's going to be good.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you all soon.
Okay, thanks very much.
Take care.
Welcome to Cosplay Togs and All Things Nerdy. This is the Picvetia edition, I guess. We welcome some of the organisers from this fantastic event, some of whom you will recognize from our previous episode. So we just thought we'd have a little catch up at the sort of midway point of day 3 of the event and see how things are going. I know I've had a fantastic time so far. It's been a really fantastic event, really well organized yet again. So thank you for that. And thank you for allowing me to come along and attend. So how's it gone for all of you guys so far?
It's going good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially because you can always see if there are a lot of problems in Discord
Yep.
or not. And for me, it was really quiet this space.
Yep,
Just
definitely.
minor problems.
Yeah, the only thing I've seen is like a few people like lost and found, and a few people saying about parking questions, but like by and large, I've seen sort of very, very, very few issues on the Discord. I guess the one thing we've got to talk about is the sort of cancellations this time. There's been quite a few. I've been really fortunate. I've only had 2 myself. But I know some people have had more than others. I guess with the current climate, with what's going on in the world right now and just general life for people, it is to be expected for an event like this. But I think there has been quite a few, which has caused a bit of a headache for everyone attending. But I guess it's caused like a massive headache for you guys as well. And I've seen the sort of frustration from you guys because you want everyone to come and have an amazing time. You know, people are spending sort of time and money coming along. So I guess it must be quite a sad time for you guys when you do get a lot of cancellations. So how's that been generally overall?
I think you said it's very frustrating.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a point where every day we were receiving at least one cancellation.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were like, please make it stop. Like, no cancellations, no
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
And so the later the cancellations come,
Yeah,
the worse.
The worse it is. Yeah, yeah.
Both for the organizers, but especially for the participants.
Yes, yes.
Because then, I mean, there's even some people who didn't show up for shoots.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's very frustrating because then
Yeah.
you spend time on makeup or bringing your gear up a mountain. Or something
Absolutely.
like this, and then they don't show up. But
Yeah.
aside from that, I think that people will still manage to fill their slots.
Yeah, yeah. I think generally overall, yeah.
It's nice to see.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think some people picked up some last minute shoots. Like I had 2 cancellations for Friday, which were sort of well ahead of time, and people gave me plenty of notice, and there were genuine reasons, and that happens. But I chose not to fill those on the Friday because I'd already got quite a few slots. I think we had this discussion earlier, but then I picked up an extra one for Sunday, so it kind of balances out in the end. But I guess, like I say, with what's going on in the world right now, and you know, things happen in life with people, so I guess for an event like this, it is to be expected. But
Also, don't forget that we got 2 times bigger than
exactly, yes,
so
absolutely.
it's probably also 2 times.
It's a
more
numbers game,
cancellations.
correct? Yes, yeah. So
And in the end, people had the Discord as well to find other people. And
correct, yes,
I really had the chance to be able to
yeah, yeah.
and express. And it turns out that there was what
Yes, yes. Yeah, I know, like, you know, previous events that I've done when I've picked up last minute shoots. So Focus last year, and also Picvetia again last year when I picked up like a last minute shoot. They turned out to be like my best shoots of the weekend. And sometimes it can be a little bit like that because sometimes you can sort of put all the planning in the world and sometimes over plan for a shoot. But sometimes something is a little bit spontaneous can just be, you know, turn out to be fantastic. So I guess the other thing to talk about is the weather. The weather's been fantastic this weekend. You know, certainly for me, coming from the UK, the rainy, cold UK, the last 2 days have been absolutely fantastic. As you can see, a little bit sunburnt, but not too bad. Not as hot as last year, which was definitely good. A little bit cooler today, but still, I think, really nice weather. But yeah, so anything else that you guys want to add?
Just thank you for being here. Thank you.
No, thank you.
all of this. Thank you for the nice words.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's been a fantastic event yet again. It's only my second time attending with you guys, but I'd certainly have no qualms attending again or recommending this to anyone else. It really is an experience. I mean, I myself am starting to pull more away from sort of UK mainstream events to more events like this because I generally find I get a lot more out of it, both from the creative shoot aspect, but also just getting to come away and travel and meet new people, make new friends. Yeah, it really is a fantastic experience that I would recommend to absolutely anybody that wants to try it. So again, thank you so much. Looking forward to the group photos shortly, which is always fun. And then on to 2 more shoots this afternoon. How about you guys? You've got many more shoots left today?
None today.
I've got 3 left.
I've got
So,
2,
one with me. Yeah.
Later.
So looking forward to that one. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't rain till after.
Yes.
If not, we're in the waterfalls anyway, so I'm sure we can live with that. But yeah, once again, thank you so much, guys, and we will speak to you again, no doubt, in the future. Thanks for listening, guys.